Evening and welcome to the February 25th, 2025 regular meeting of the City of Troy Planning Commission. Copies of the agenda for tonight's meeting are available at the entrance of the room. Agendas and minutes of prior meetings are available on the city website. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with the agenda as presented or amended by the Planning Commission.
State law establishes planning commissions. This planning commission is comprised of 9 residents appointed to serve a community. Members are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council. Other individuals participating in the meeting include representatives of the city's planning department, city attorney office, and the city's planning consultant, Carlisle Wortman Associates.
If you wish to address the Planning Commission, please come forward to the lectern when recognized and clearly print your name and address on the sign-in sheet. Please begin your remarks by stating your name for the benefit of the commissioners. All remarks are to be addressed to the Planning Commission and not to anyone else in the room. If you have a cell phone or any other device that might disrupt this meeting, please either switch it to silent mode or turn it off. At this time, I ask the Planning Commission Recording Secretary, Kathy Zarnicki, to conduct the roll call, please.
Mr. Buechner? Mr. Faison?
Here.
Mr. Fox?
Here.
Mr. Hudson?
Here.
Mr. Krent?
Here.
Mr. Lambert?
Here.
Ms. Malala-Holly?
Here.
Ms. Parakis?
Here.
Mr. Tagle?
Here.
Quorum present, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next is the approval of tonight's agenda.
I'll move.
Okay, Mr. Faison, and seconded by Mr. Fox. Any discussion? All right, we're ready for the roll call.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krent?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Malala-Holly?
Yes.
Ms. Parakis?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next is the approval of the minutes from the February 11th, 2025 meeting. Yep, Mr. Lambert.
Approve. I support.
Mr. Faison seconds that. Any discussion? All right, we're ready for the roll call.
Mr. Fox?
Abstain.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krent?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Malala-Holly?
Yes.
Ms. Parakis?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next is item 4, public comment for items that are not on the agenda. If anyone is here to discuss anything that's not on tonight's agenda, you can come forward now. Okay, seeing no one, we'll move on to item number 5. It's a special use approval. Public hearing, special use application SU JPLN 2024-0031, proposed Barbat Troy Vehicle Fueling Multi-Use Station. It's the southeast corner of Crooks Road and South Boulevard. Address is 1981 South Boulevard, PIN 88-20-4-100-59, Section 4, currently zoned Neighborhood Node U District.
Mr. Carlisle is going to present, but before he begins, I just want to remind the planning commissioners that Steve Deering from OHM is in attendance tonight. OHM Advisors is in attendance this evening. I anticipated there may be questions related to traffic for either one of these 2 applications, so in the event that there is, we have a traffic expert here who can answer any questions that we may have.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, thank you and good evening. Tonight before you is an application to develop a fueling station, a convenience store with a carry-out component at the southeast corner of South Boulevard and Crooks. The subject site is Zone Neighborhood Node. This qualifies as a site type A. We remind the Planning Commission that vehicle fueling or automotive uses require special use approval in this district. As you know, the city has spent a lot of time on the master plan and recently updated the master plan with regards to the nodes. This was a node that we looked at. It's under the neighborhood node O in the master plan. It states that area should remain predominantly commercial, catering to the local needs of the surrounding neighborhoods. New development and redevelopment should be either of mixed use or commercial that serves to further enhance the successful commercial area. Any new development should incorporate distinctive elements to create a gateway feeling into Troy. Distinctive elements include gateway signage, streetscape, and unique architecture. Again, we remind the Planning Commission to keep this in mind as they review the application. So with regards to site layout, South Avenue is actually to the north here, so if I flip south and north elevations, it's because I'm confused about the street. The South Boulevard is to the north, and we got Crooks to the left. Again, the convenience store is located at the hard corner of Crooks and South Boulevard. The gas canopy is in the back end of the site, more adjacent to Crooks. There are 51 parking spaces, which are directly behind the main building and under the gas canopy at the south end of the site. And there is a covered patio, which is located along the Crooks elevation, adjacent to the main building. With regards to area width, height, and setbacks, the building again is set back at the hard corner of Crooks and South Boulevard. This is a requirement of the zoning ordinance with the fuel canopy behind. We do note that the applicant does seek relief from the setback along Crooks. It's a 10-foot setback. However, the applicant is seeking approval to place it at 25 feet. This is in order to put that outdoor patio that I discussed to serve the restaurant that's being proposed as part of the building. With regards to all other provisions, it does comply with all other bulk standards of the neighborhood node. There are 2 points of access to the site. One is along South Boulevard, just to the east of the building, and one is along Crooks. We do note that there's a 5-foot sidewalk that wraps around the entire building, as well as a pedestrian spine that kind of works its way along the east side of the property. It's highlighted there in yellow. The site is underparked and / overparked depending on how you look at the proposal. The applicant is proposing a total of 51 spaces. However, we note that just for the fueling use alone, it's 49 spaces. However, they have indicated on their floor plans there's a future restaurant that's part of the application, and that requires 19 spaces. We've asked the applicant to clarify the timing of the restaurant use. So it's underparked if it's just for the fueling use, but it's overparked when you consider the application of the restaurant uses. That being said, in total, the applicant is proposing 10 less spaces than what's required by the ordinance, but they do note that based on shared parking arrangements with people fueling, picking up food, et cetera, that actually the 51 spaces should be sufficient for the proposed combined uses of the restaurant on site as well as the fueling station. We do note that the applicant is proposing 16 EV charging spaces. They note this was at a future date. We do note that if those 16 spaces are not included as part of the initial build out of the site, they're underparked. So we do recommend that those EV parking stations be installed at the time of installation of the fueling portion of the development. With regards to landscaping, we do note that landscaping complies both in greenbelt, screening, parking lot, and overall landscaping. We also note that lighting complies with PC approval. They have proposed a decorative sconce lighting on their elevations and the colored renderings. This requires a planning commission approval. However, all other site lighting, including parking lot landscaping or parking lot lighting and canopy lighting, do comply with ordinance requirements. The floor plan is listed above you. It's a 6,300 square foot building, which is a very significant and large building for a fueling station. We do note there's 3 components to it. The first is the convenience store. It's located and outlined there in the green provision. It's a typical convenience store. It's got goods, a beer wall, liquor wall, restroom, storage area, and office space. What's unique about this is they've also included a restaurant takeout portion. It's outlined in red. That's along the Crooks Road elevation. And they've also got a proposed covered patio, which is going to be used with the takeout restaurant. Again, the applicant was not clear on the takeout restaurant and the timing of when that would be completed, and that's part of our discussion with the applicant tonight is what the timing of how and when that future restaurant use would be incorporated as part of the development. We do note that the building complies with the 22-foot height requirement of the district. The primary materials are masonry, wood cladding, aluminum composite panels. We do note that there were no building or no materials provided for the canopy, so we can't confirm that the canopy design and materials meet those of the primary building. The exteriors, again, are a gray color. Our colors are black, gray, sandstone, and red. We do note that transparency is required, is compliant with the neighborhood node requirements. One of the issues that we've talked to the applicant is actually the detail that they propose on the different elevation sections. So the top picture is the square lake elevation is the one that says corner store with that little tower element. And the bottom one is the elevation at Square Lake and Crooks. That's what's being proposed. If you note, the elevation that's actually along the parking lot has a lot more detail and architectural, I don't know, excitement, I guess I would use for both the parking lot side. So what we're suggesting is actually that they apply the parking lot elevation and put that on the South Boulevard elevation and or repeat both and have both on both elevations just to add more life and vibrancy to the building than what's being showed from the Crooks and the South Boulevard perspective. We note there are a number of standards the planning commission to consider with the application. The first is with regards to neighborhood node, building orientation, entrance, ground story activation, transitional features, and site access and parking. Site plan review standards, compatibility to existing commercial districts and transition between land uses, incorporation of best architectural practices, and enhancing the character and environment and safety for pedestrian and motorists. We do note, and this is actually deficient in the report, that this also has to comply with section 6.28, which are specific provisions for vehicle fueling stations. There are 5 sections that need to comply with. The first is setbacks. They do comply with all the required setbacks. The second is the canopy structure. One of the provisions of the ordinance requires is that the canopy match the design and materials of the building. Since we did not receive canopy details, we are uncertain if that requirement has been met. The third is pedestrian circulation, and we do find it meets pedestrian circulation. And the last 2 are regards to service stations that have a vehicle wash and or repair. It's not applicable because they're not having those services on site. And lastly, this is a special use, so the Planning Commission should consider the 7 standards under the special use provisions. So in summary, we are asking the Planning Commission to hold a public hearing and consider the compatibility of the master plan, the increased front setback along Crooks, the parking deviation requests, the scope of the future carryout restaurant and projected timing, and the compliance with the neighborhood node standards, special use standards, and the site plan review standards. And lastly, we are recommending that if the Planning Commission does grant special use and preliminary site plan approval, the recommendations are that they flip the engaging facade to South Boulevard, they construct the EV parking spaces, including the chargers, as part of the parking lot development, and lastly, they ensure the canopy materials match design in the main building. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carlisle. Does anyone have any questions? Yep, Mr. Fox.
So the reason that this is coming as a special use specifically is because of the gas station, or would the EV chargers also require special use because that's auto-focused?
Just the gas station. In fact, the EV parking, we strongly encourage and can do that administratively for other parking lots. So it's simply just the gas station use that requires a special use.
So hypothetically, a different version of this application that was just the convenience store, the takeout restaurant, the patio, and EV chargers would not need a special use approval?
Correct. That'd be through a site plan, and they would not require special use.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Kron.
You mentioned the materials for the canopy. Is that the canopy for the gas pumps and the restaurant, either or both?
Just the gas pumps.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Lambert.
Mr. Carlisle, the parking deficiency, you indicated in there that they were counting on using shared parking. Is that with the stores that are in the strip mall next to them?
No, shared parking on site. I mean,
On
they've
site,
got,
okay.
yeah, because of the shared use of the parking, or of the restaurant use in relation to the convenience store. There's going to be some crossover
Okay.
of people that use both, and we wouldn't want to double count those uses. So they're trying to economies of scale by using both uses to count towards their parking. And truthfully, we review this. We don't think parking is going to be a problem on the site. There's 51 spaces are a significant amount of spaces based on the uses proposed.
And I guess as a follow-up, if it's okay,
Yep.
Is this an appropriate time for our traffic consultant to speak on the impact of this development on traffic on the 2 adjoining streets, or do you want to wait until later in the presentation?
I think it's a really question for the chair. If there's other questions for the commission, I can answer them and then go to traffic. It's up to the commissioner.
I think let's finish taking Planning Commission questions. Mr. Tagle?
Talk to me a little bit about how you calculate parking. You can't count gas pumps as a parking space, nor can you count the EV as a parking space. So if you subtract those 2 components, how deficient are they in parking?
So the 51 spaces do include so by ordinance, you're required to park for the convenience store, the restaurant. So there are 2 separate calculations. You're also required to count, you're required to put 1 car per pump. So that's included in the 51 spaces. So that's included. The EV charging stations are also included in that 51 total. So we count all the parking as one calculation to determine what the overall site parking requirement is going to be.
So if I subtracted the pump slots or parking space or stalls, the EV stalls, when I subtract that from, is it 61? Is that what they're proposing?
61 total, 61 is required, 51 on site.
So they got 51, I subtract the gas pumps and the EV, what does that leave them? Does that leave them enough for the convenience store and the restaurant.
If you allow for the theory or thought that there can be shared parking between the restaurant use and the convenience store use.
That's not my question. It's like taking the rest of those, because those aren't parking spaces. I'm not going to pull up to an EV charging station and park my car there to go in to buy a sandwich.
The thought is you may go to the restaurant. So you may
Park in an EV spot?
and go to the restaurant.
And so if I don't have an EV car, can I still park in an EV spot?
I mean, I don't,
Well, I mean, come on,
I mean, I don't
seriously. I mean,
know.
those are for cars that are charging. Like
Yeah.
my car, if I pulled up to a gas pump, I'd want to, fill my car with gas. I wouldn't stay there and go in to eat. But my point is, those are designated spots for a specific use. Could
Yep.
they be double counted for parking? And it sounds like we are. I guess I don't know. If there's an EV charging station there, is somebody going to go park there and go in and get a six-pack of Coke? I don't know.
well, the EV spaces are on the south side of the site, so they're farthest away from the convenience store use. So, I'd be hard pressed to think that there would be so much parking in front of the convenience store that someone just wanted to use a convenience store, they wouldn't just have that space.
Okay, I guess I'm just asking how, as a commission, should we look
I
at
get
these
it.
spaces? Should they be looked at as viable parking spaces?
So here's the other way I'd look at it. The other way I'd look at it is if they took away the EV spaces and just had those as regular parking spaces,
Right.
they'd be compliant. I don't think we should penalize an applicant for going above and beyond and putting in EV parking. So the way to think of it would be if we didn't count those towards parking, they'd have to find 16 other spaces on site to put in EV charging spaces.
Is that what the ordinance says?
The ordinance is silent on EV parking.
That's-
Well, I see a potential concern here as we look at our ordinance down the road. Because if we're not counting, we're counting an EV station as a parking space. And whether that's true or not, I don't know. I would feel funny parking a gasoline-driven automobile in an EV parking spot or EV station if I was just going to go in and buy a burger or whatever.
I see your position, and I also, in theory, they could take that, the EV proponent of this development out, and they would be parked, and we would have EV parking spaces there.
Well, yes, but they're not. They're coming to us with this. The other question I have, there's a drive on the east side. Is that shared by the adjacent property owner?
There is a shared, yes, and there is a shared access is also
On
to the east side of the building.
Oh, on the
south.
east side,
Yeah.
right, okay. So that's already legally a shared drive between the two property owners?
Exists now.
All right, thanks.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question because I had the same issue. It was the very first thing I wrote down. I said, can we really have the EV spots count as regular spots, okay? So I was on the planning commission when I learned that when you go to a gas station and you park at a pump, that's considered your parking spot. So if you want to go in and use the bathroom, you don't have to move your car. I used to move my car into a parking spot because I didn't know that. So I learned something, but to that point, in this situation, I'm really confused about the 42 fueling spots because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pumps.
So how we look at it, we have a mixture of uses on site. We don't necessarily break it out by, they need this, we look at the total. So by ordinance, they're required to have 42 fueling spots based on the convenience store.
Okay.
And the number of pumps, and they need 42 total spaces.
Okay, so that's fine. So, all right, you're calling them fueling spots, but they're really the store and the restaurant and whatever. Okay. I agree with Mr. Takel. It's something we do need to take a step back, though, and think about because I agree. If I see an EV spot, there's no way I would put my non-EV car in that spot and go in. So we have to decide. We don't want to be overparked, but we got to figure that one out at some point. Okay. Does anyone else have a question for the building department? I did have one more question. How many feet to the street are we with the patio?
So the patio is at 10 feet.
The patio's at 10 feet. To
Or
the
it may-
street?
It may be 12 feet. It's from the right of way.
So there's a sidewalk, there's grass, a sidewalk, more grass, and then the patio?
Let me look at the plans real quickly, but.
While he's looking.
Yeah.
I have a question for Mr. Tagle or any of the planning commission. So you go to a gas station, you're driving a relatively reasonably sized car. Every parking space is full, but there's 6 empty EV charging station spaces. They're all the same level. There's 6 of them. And you know that if you park at one of them, there's still gonna be 5 available EV charging stations. And all you're gonna do is run in and grab a can of Coke. You're telling me you're not gonna park for 90 seconds at an EV charging station parking space? For 90 seconds. And there's 5 other spaces available. 90 seconds.
No.
Well, we can flip that argument around, too. And so the question is, are they really parking spaces for someone that doesn't have an EV? If they are, great, but our ordinance ought to make that clear, that these are parking spaces, whether you've got an EV charger there or not. So that if there are 6 people, an unusual situation, but if there are 6 people with their cars there and I want to go charge my car, I'm out of luck.
Well, I think I think in the long term, because we don't see enough EV charging stations, because I don't just, in my day-to-day existence, I don't see a lot of EV charging stations. When I do, they're typically at Target or Mine, they're at larger venues. But I think moving forward, and I don't know when that is, and we have an expert over here who can speak to EV, who's in attendance, but I think in the future, they're going to be used. And I think once the word gets out that there's a restaurant here where someone can park, charge, and go in, have a meal, spend some time while they're charging, I think the point will be moot because hopefully they'll be used.
To answer your original
Yes.
question.
Thank you.
The patio, the edge of the canopy of the patio space is 10 feet from the right-of-way. So from the edge of curb, there's a small landscape area, there's a sidewalk, there's another grassy area, and then there's the edge of the patio.
Okay.
Yes. But total, it's 25 feet. The building is 25 feet from the edge, from the right-of-way to the building, and then the patio encroaches 15 foot out from the building into the setback area.
Okay. Thank you. All right, anyone else have any questions before we invite the applicant up? Okay. If the applicant is here, we'd like to invite you up. Please come and sign in, and you can introduce yourself.
While they approach the podium, I just want to state for the record, we received the petition. That copies are available to the Planning Commission. We received that after the packet, the agenda went out. We received an email from Fabrice Smiliosakis.
Schmilauskis.
Sorry. Thank you. And we received an email from Farid Jindo.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. Eric Williams with Stonefield Engineering and Design. We are the civil engineers on the project. Address is 555 South Old Woodward, Birmingham, Michigan. We are here tonight on behalf of the applicant, the Barbad Organization. Both Scott and Dwayne Barbad are in attendance and are happy to answer any questions that you might.
Could you speak a little louder?
I would love to.
Thanks.
Is that better? All right. And then we also have Mr. John Abra, who is the project architect. It sounds like you guys are fairly familiar with him as well. So I don't want to go and rehash everything that Ben pointed out. I think he does a great job of describing the site, the layout, some of the challenges that we had. I'm hoping that we can bring a little bit of clarity to maybe some of the questions, comments that we've heard in the last 15 minutes or so. So in terms of the number of EV parking spaces, and Ben, I apologize if this wasn't clear in the application, we don't intend to install 16 EV spaces at this point. I know there's some concerns over the number that are being installed relative to the total number of parking spaces on site. So the plan in front of you has 4 EV spaces that are just below the canopy. At this point in time, that is what we are committed to installing as a part of, we'll just call it the first phase of construction or just the initial construction. Again, I apologize, I'm not sure where the number 16 came from, but I think that's more than what we're committed to at this point. I'm sure you guys have talked a lot about EVs over the last couple of years. it's something that's typically leased to another provider that will come install their own facility, and they'll operate and maintain those and really just lease the space from the property owner at that point in time. So that's, hopefully that maybe lessens the concern of the number of spaces that would be dedicated to that at any point in time. The other item I just want to add to it, kind of what Ben alluded to in terms of the Crooks Road setback. So it's a little hard to tell up on this screen, but basically running through that 25-foot dimension that we have on the screen, there's actually a utility easement that basically cuts that corner short of us having access to the entire property. So, we looked at kind of the option, do we set the building further back from South Boulevard, or do we set it further back from Crooks? With Crooks kind of being that main thoroughfare between the two communities, we thought it'd be really nice to set the building back there. It'd provide direct access for customers, and they could go ahead, sit outside, and it's just a nice pedestrian amenity that's provided. What else do we have? Again, just jumping around a little bit, I don't want to go back through everything that Ben went through. But I do want to talk about maybe the special land use criteria just a little bit for your consideration. I know there wasn't a huge summary on what those are, how we believe that we do meet those. So compatibility with adjacent uses, right? This is a neighborhood node. It's permitted as a special land use. I think when we talk about the master plan, right, this is a area that's designated for commercial use and service within the community. We believe that this is a great service-oriented use. We're providing this restaurant space for people to stop, have a bite to eat, charge their car if they want, do some work if they want, right? It's really kind of freedom to whoever wants to show up. And then also having the convenience store component with the fueling. I think the other nice thing that we do have, again, is the pedestrian amenity, right? If you want to sit outside, I know Crooks is a busy road, but if you want to sit outside when it's nice out, today maybe, you have the opportunity. We do have the pedestrian connectivity to both roadways, and then obviously the bike parking. I touched on the master plan, so again, we are compatible with the master plan based on the language that Ben presented. Traffic impact, sounds like Mr. Deering is here. Would love to hear from him as well. But what we do know about convenience and gas station uses is that they are large pass-by trip generators. So really what that is these are trips that are already on the roadway, right? You're going to and from school, to and from work, whatever your daily activities are. And so about 75% of the trips to the property are what we would call pass-by trips. So when we looked at it, comparing we'll say the 11,000 square foot Rite Aid that has obviously been closed for about a year now, maybe a little more, we would expect to see less than one additional trip per minute in a peak hour. So no more than 50 additional trips in a peak hour. So really, when you think about that in the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge increase, and many of the trips are already on this roadway. I think looking at the next one is impact on public services. Again, we're actually lessening the footprint of the building. Not that that is a direct correlation to impact on public utilities, but we already have sanitary and water service on site. I think the one thing that we are going to drastically improve is the stormwater management that exists. There is none today. I mean, there's pipes and catch basins, but we will be installing a detention system water quality feature that will meet all city and county standards. So that should really lessen the burden on the city and county infrastructure. Compliance with the zoning ordinance standards, again, I think we are obviously seeking two different deviations, one for the parking, which we'd be happy to speak more about and maybe hear from Mr. Deering, and the other is just the waiver for the building setback. But other than that, we do comply with all zoning standards. And then impact on the overall environment. I think, what we are looking to do here is remove a dated building, right? It's not pretty. I think everybody's probably driven by it. It's got, the Rite Aid logos and everything else. But we are looking to redevelop and bring an active site to the city. We're bringing it into compliance with the current and desired zoning within the community. We're lessening the amount of imperviousness on site. Again, that's just another environmental improvement. And then I think if we, want to look at the landscaping plan, we are planning a significant amount of additional landscaping where it doesn't exist today. I think with that, I would like to pass it to John Abro and allow him to maybe speak to the architecture and some of the feedback that Ben had provided during his presentation.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. John Abro, Abro Design Group, based out of Big Beaver, Troy, Michigan. I do want to mention regarding the setback off Crooks. Yes, it is a larger setback, but what we did is we wanted to take advantage of that setback and actually add a canopy component. This is not a low canopy that's 8 feet above finished floor, 10 feet above the sidewalk. We actually have it placed 12 feet, so it does add a lot of natural lighting coming in. The reason for the canopy was important is that I am a Big Beaver business owner, and I noticed a lot of the shopping centers on Big Beaver, there are a lot of outdoor patios. Certain times of the year or a few months of the year, the sun's really beating on you, so people kind of go outside to take their lunch, but then they kind of go back inside because the sun is beating on you. So the canopy does help with just the sunlight coming in for those handful of months, either rain or additional sunlight. So that's the reason why we added this canopy. And again, we thought it was a great feature to the building. And again, we wrapped it around the south end of the building, kind of wraps around the front. To the comment about the facade design, actually, we are going to take the recommendation of the City of Troy, and not only just flipping or taking the south elevation to the north, we're actually just going to enhance the north and as well as off Crooks. So we're going to actually add more of the components of the metal panels of those and the siding as well. So not just leaving it with the mason brick, but again, adding the additional materials, especially the corners, Square Lake and Crooks. So we're going to add some of the components you see on the southwest corner to the northwest corner.
Ben, could you show us really quick the south elevation so we can see what he's talking about? There. So the south, that it's going to look more like that?
Yes, so there's already a portion of it already on the north end. Again, not the entire length of the south, but there's already an existing portion of it. And yes, we will add, now again, you won't have as much glazing indoors just because, again, the south is servicing just the massive entrance of the building. But we are going to take the siding, we're going to be taking the additional light bone beige metal panel to the north itself, northwest.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
In regards to the gas canopy, regards to the design elements, so typically gas station would have the service company would actually have the branding of the product itself. That's typically a 2 foot, 2.5 foot, kind of throughout the four edges and lit, nicely lit up. What's really cool about that is obviously the canopy gas stations, the canopy itself are metal panel. And again, we're also using quite a bit of metal panel on this building here, which is the ACM panel. We're actually using a local Michigan product, laminators. So those have a lot of similar feature in regards of facade materials. That is it, guys.
Does anyone have questions for the applicant? Mr. Krant?
Got a little handful of them. First of all, you show it on Square Lake. It's South Boulevard on your picture, on your,
Yeah.
you were saying Square Lake. and-
I'm at South Boulevard.
Okay, just want to make sure we're in the same place. Okay, so the materials that you're going to use above the gas pumps, the canopy, you say it's going to be the same as you're using the panels on this?
Yes, they use an ACM sort of branding panel around the facade of it.
Okay, so what brand gas is it?
Shell.
Shell, okay. And they're good with that, okay. So the next thing is, on the electric vehicle thing, you're having 4 units there. Will you be putting in some kind of piping to go to the future ones ahead of time?
So the infrastructure will, we have the site plan? So along the parking spaces, there are the 4 EV stations. Along that drive aisle, or along the parking space itself, from island to island, you will have the infrastructure ready planned for any future EVs.
Great.
And as mentioned before, there is an office building on the corner of Livernois and Big Beaver. I see 3-4 parking spaces. It's a massive office compound. So yeah, today there's only a few handful being used.
But planning ahead so you don't have to rip up concrete later.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and then the last thought is, okay, since this is a gateway to Troy, what are you providing as a gateway announcement that this is Troy?
We don't have an actual structure element or some sort of product that is on the corner facing itself. So, other than the quality of the building being on the corner.
Okay, so we had a prior presentation where they did include a ground sign, "Welcome to Troy," with this Troy logo.
Oh, yeah.
I would consider that as a good idea.
I absolutely. I'm sorry about that. Yes, they are looking to propose that. I'm thinking of some sort of monument clock sign or something of that nature. But Dwayne's here. He's actually one of the owners of the local business, family-owned business. He'll speak to that about the ground sign and actually the element of Welcome to Troy and how that will be lit up itself.
Oh, nice.
Mr. Abra, could you make sure you sign in?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I just want to start by saying thank you for the opportunity tonight. To give you a little bit of an intro about ourselves and our company, it's been a few years. I think the last time we were here was 2019, so a lot of new faces. The Barbette organization is a company that is owned by myself and my two brothers. We've had a presence here in Troy for several years. We have exposure in both the retail and the industrial space. We've never owned a business here, but it's something that we would love to do. The gas station component of our business is a big part of our business. So this has always been a dream of ours, and we'd love the opportunity to do it. My partner is my brother, and I also have a third brother who's not here tonight. We're local. We were born right down the street, and we actually still reside just a few miles away from the site. So this will give us an opportunity to keep a close eye on the operation and make sure that it's ran at the highest standard. We really value our relationship and our reputation here in Troy, and we've always worked well with the Planning Commission, so we're really excited about this. The question that you had about the ground sign, absolutely, we have no problem incorporating a monument sign made out of stone, metal, whatever direction we get. We have no issue with that. I'd also like to talk a little bit about how we got here today and the property and why we're applying today. So this actually was not our first choice. It wasn't our second. It wasn't our third. It wasn't even our fourth choice. So we came in. We purchased a property 2021 as an investment property with Rite Aid as the tenant, and we expected them to be a long-term tenant for us. And unfortunately, they filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy and ultimately closed the store. So we were notified about 18 months ago. Our next choice was to go to the CVS across the street. The CVS is an inline CVS in a shopping center. They don't have a drive-through. They're not on the corner, and they're not a freestanding building. So all the criteria that they're against, they were actually had at that site. Unfortunately, CVS is not planning on spending any money in the Michigan market right now, and that plan kind of ended pretty quick. Third, we spent about 6 months with a car wash opportunity. And we thought it was a great opportunity. We were going to retrofit the building to add a tunnel, add some indoor vacuum cleaners, and for us, we just thought keeping the building up was just a great opportunity, not to have to demo and remove all, it's actually a great building. It does need a little bit of a facade improvement, but it's a very solid building that's only 20-some years old, so it's a newer building. And unfortunately, we were getting a little bit of feedback that it wasn't, I guess, the city has just recently approved a few car washes, and I think the board had said enough was enough. So we made the decision ourselves internally that we were going to pull the application. We devoted a lot of significant time and resources to that application. We wasted about 6 months there doing that. And and the next choice would have been to put some gas pumps with the perfectly good building, put a new facade on it, add some windows, and unfortunately that didn't comply to the master plan. So finally, we're here. We design a building that is up front of the property, like the master plan wanted. It's a commercial corner, and I believe it's as a commercial corner as there is in the city. There's currently a drive-through bank. There's currently there's a cell phone tower behind us. There is 2 other gas stations on the property. And also, many of you may or may not know this, but 30 years ago, there was a mobile gas station that sat on this very property before the Rite Aid. We're going to propose a safe site, a well-lit site. A lot of glass, a lot of lighting, transparent to see what's going on, just safer than what's there right now. My speech today, I would say that I have a 17-year-old daughter, and the typical gas station, the typical drugstore, they're dark, they're not well lit. They're not safe. There's not that many people. We're proposing something completely the opposite of that. We want to put in something that's lit up with a lot of people, that's going to be inviting, and somewhere that anyone can feel safe at any time. I think there's a serious void. We actually just lost 2 Rite Aids here in Troy. This one here and the one on Maple and Crooks. And then on top of that, there's one on 14 Mile and Crooks and Clawson that went out of business, and 2 others in Bloomfield, one of them being 2.5 miles away, the other one being 2.75 miles away. So quick and convenient is really the evolution today. I mean, you guys can see it with Amazon, Uber, DoorDash. We can go on and on. So, we learned a lot from the COVID era, and people just don't want to go into busy grocery stores to grab one item, park at a big parking lot, walk all the way in, deal with long lines. And the gas stations are really evolving into a new model. We don't have this model here yet in Troy. We've got a 5,000 and some change building, the square foot building, the EV charging stations, a restaurant component, fresh food, a lot of offerings that nobody else has, and nobody really has the footprint to offer. This model, we feel like, is going to replace the drugstore. Not only are there 5 drugstores within the area that have gone out of business, but there's all signs pointing to Walgreens following the same path that Rite Aid did. Walgreens, just for the first time in 92 years, suspended 4th quarter dividends for the first time. So I don't want to speculate, but in my opinion, the writing's on the wall that we're going to be losing some more. So, when somebody needs an essential item and they need to run in and run out, there's really not that much offerings. There's not that many places that can accommodate that. I do want to talk a little bit about our model and what we're going to be proposing here today. It's not your prototypical gas station. We're proposing a state-of-the-art facility. Our projections on the site show that less than 15% of our sales will be dedicated to gas volume gallons. The remaining 85% will be store sales, hot food, EV charging stations, air, ATM, and other essentials that we need for every day. Using the direction of the planning department, we're proposing to build a big building on the property line with outdoor seating, landscaping, benches, walkways. This intent was to create walkability at the site, quite the difference of what's there right now. Also, our cafe will make for a comfortable waiting area for the customers while using the charging stations. Currently, we're at 4 cars right now. Putting the charging station in is not the expensive part of the project. It's really getting the power to it, the underground infrastructure, the power, and we're preparing for all that. So one day when we need to add more, we're ready to do it. And if people were thinking this 20 or 30 years ago, you'd see a lot more charging stations out there right now. It's very difficult to add them. Actually, their charging stations out-position our pumps, so you see them from the road before you see our pumps. And that was on purpose. You may say that there are 2 gas stations across the street. There's one real significant term in our business. It's called no cross traffic. So when you look at competition, you really look at who's on your side of the road. The convenient approach is right in, right out. We see up to 90% of the volume for gas come from that side. So we are looking at eastbound traffic on South Boulevard, we are 4 miles away from the next gas station, which is South Boulevard and Updike. And then Crooks, which is going to be our main thoroughfare, is Crooks and Maple, which is also in the city, and that is over 5 miles away. And that is our heaviest traffic pattern on Crooks, which actually has a boulevard, so it makes it even more difficult than crossing over traffic. That's pretty much it that I have for you today. I'd love to answer any questions if anyone has.
Yeah, thank you, thanks. Yep, well, it looks like we have a whole host of questions. I'm going to start right here with Ms. Malala Holly.
Thank you. Thank you for that detailed explanation, by the way. The facade all looks great, but I still have some concerns that we have received as Planning Commission here from our residents in terms of environmental concerns, traffic impact, although that we will discuss a little bit later, and also the fact that there are already 3 in the area that also have the same kind of setup built in, which is a convenience store and a fueling station. I know you are in talking about EV gas station, but your stations, your EV station right now, which is only going to be 4, I do not know how that will be filled up by customers waiting to get their cars charged when they don't have enough to do inside because you don't have plans for your restaurant yet. Your plan for a restaurant accommodating, coming together with everything else that you are talking about today will say not just 4, but even in the future, if you were to add more, customers would come, go grab a meal while they are waiting for an hour or hour and a half, they get their vehicles charged. How much of that 4 EV stations will be occupied by just offering a convenience store-like thing when there is a convenience store right across? That's 1, 3 more gas stations also, and the environmental concerns that come with building a gas station. Have you had a chance to talk to your neighbors about this gas station at all? Did you receive any kind of input from them?
Nobody has reached out to us. We have not talked to our neighbors. We don't have any residents that live adjacent to us. So typically in the past, if they've reached out, we've scheduled meetings with them and sat down with them and talked to them. Nothing like that happened. I'm going to go back and answer your question about the restaurant. I could tell you right now, this is a preliminary site plan approval. And I believe there will be 2 more to go after this, for approval. We could disclose right now 3 different concepts that we're talking to, and we will guarantee that once we open, we'll either open with the restaurant or we'll be under construction and we'll be close to open. So that I'm not worried about. We can disclose before final city board who the restaurant is or our concept of what we're going to decide to do there. But there's not a shortage there. We're definitely gonna open up the right way. We're not going to open up with a bunch of paper in the windows, and obviously unless we're still finishing up construction, but it's not. There's a lot of demand here, and we're confident that we're gonna open up with a gas station. We can disclose that possibly at the next meeting or the meeting after that.
To me personally, and I'm not talking about my fellow commissioners, it feels like an incomplete application for me to consider, because I'm seeing, I don't know what kind of restaurant is going to come in there, how much of it is going to be busy, how many, the EV stations that you propose, total of 16, let's say, in the future. Yes, I can see that being a place where residents will come and make use of because they have a restaurant to go to, as opposed to now those 4 EV stations may just be sitting there because there is not much thing to do. Now, a Meijer or a Kroger or even a mall is a great place for EV stations because there is so much time that they can spend in those places.
Sure.
I'm just looking at all that, and so I ask, I feel it's an incomplete application. That's my 2 cents.
Sure.
But I'll
So
let other
I'm going to let my brother talk about the logistics of the restaurant when it'll open and the charging stations. But before I give the microphone to him, I will tell you that if the restaurant's not open, the seating will be open, and there will be somewhere to lounge and wait for your vehicle. We are going to have prepared foods at the site, and we're going to have a comfortable environment for you when you're waiting for your charging stations. And I don't think it's going to come to that because I really think we're going to be open at the same time. But I'm going to go ahead and let Scott answer any other questions about the operation.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Scott Barbette with the Barbette Organization. 33477 Woodward Avenue in Birmingham. So I am a partner, and it is a locally owned and operated business. So I'd like to speak towards the concerns that you have specifically. The first one is about the restaurant. The restaurant will indeed open at the same time of the gas station. I'm more parts of the very hands-on for the operations over here. We are in final stages of the lease negotiations with Soroki's Pizza, and we can even make that a stipulation of site plan approval to open at the same time. We can even make it the same building permit to open at the same time. So that should not be a concern to anybody at all. Everything will be complete. It's actually better for us. It's better for our tenant to make a first impression to everybody that everybody opens at the same time. Second, so that is not sure where the 16 EV parking spots came from. 4 EV parking spots we're dedicating right from the beginning. There will be underground conduits from the building, from the transformer pad, all the way to those set of islands and underground, which will provide for future expansion of EVs. There's absolutely no need for them today, as much as we all would love for a larger need for them today. 4 is plenty. You don't even see that in California today. 4 is plenty for parking, for EV charging. The parking on the site is plenty for the restaurant and the convenience store. We see from all our recent developments, half of our customers are parking at the pumps, getting fuel, going inside and shopping. They're not moving their cars to any parking spots. When they go for EV charging, they're doing the same thing. So, and Eric, you can speak towards all our recent parking. We've got 1 co-branded restaurant. We've got up to 2 co-branded restaurants, this size building and even larger, and we don't even have this many parking spots. So parking spots should be not a concern to anybody. So I am very hands-on, and I can answer any other questions that anybody may have. But a couple points, and they hit on most points very nicely, Eric, John, and Dwayne. We're a family-owned business, and we were born and raised right down the road, just a few miles down the road, which is very important. We can keep our eye on the operation. We're 3 brothers. We're only in Oakland County. We've got 15 stations right now, along with commercial real estate. Allowing us to keep our eye on the station being so close and local is very important, not just for our operations, maintaining the standards of quality, but for safety, for our employees and for our customers. And another thing, this is where the future is. The old tired-looking spots where maybe you can look across the street to the site in the Rochester Hills, the Shell over there, it's a little tired. This is where it's going. One-stop shop. It's really the standard and the future of gas stations. If you look everywhere, all across the country, where all the nationals are going, larger buildings, even with drive-throughs, restaurant components, multiple food components, fresh food components, larger stores, food, gas, EV chargers. Is there any stations in Troy that even have EV chargers? Are there any stations in Troy that even have any kind of offering like this, where the stations are headed to? I don't think they do. I don't think neighboring cities even have them. So this is where it's moving. And if we want to keep moving forward, this is what we need.
If I may ask one question.
Let me, Mr. Faison, go ahead.
So I had a question, but I think it's for your brother.
Okay. Can I give you these?
And
EV
it's
chargers?
related.
My apologies not including this in the package, but these are the latest and greatest and fastest EV chargers you guys want to test for.
And it's about the gas station, right?
Sure.
So the gas station is what makes it a special use, right? That was a question that was asked right up front. And I think you made a lot of comments about the gas station, but you made one where you said like 85% of the traffic you will get is not related to the fueling station. And so if that's the case, I mean, why do you actually need the fueling station on that site? I mean, the building, obviously it's better than the Rite Aid, you know, the concept looks better, will bring more foot traffic, but the gas station specifically, like, how does that play into
Unfortunately, it's the draw that we need. When I say 15%, I'm going by volume. The gallons that we're going to be projected to pump here, only 15% of our overall projection. There's going to be, we anticipate a very busy prepared food component and a very busy C-store. So unfortunately, gas volume in the market overall has just been deteriorating over the years. The C-stores have gotten bigger, they've evolved, they've offered food. When we were all younger, it was, a little hut that had, some pop coolers and some cigarettes, and that was it. It's just changed. The vehicles are more efficient today. We've got a lot more competition in the market with Costco and Kroger and all the other, the big boxes that are now offering it. Cars are more efficient, there's EVs out there, so it has gone down, but what hasn't gone away is convenience, and we need the gas station component in order to go forward with the project. And, I'm glad you said that because, our application would need that. And we know coming in front of you today that there's a chance that this gets approved or this doesn't get approved. I said earlier, we've been sitting here for about 18 months on the site since we were first notified that Rite Aid was going to leave. I'd love to do this. I would love to do the other opportunities as well, but I'd love to do this. And at this point, we're kind of stuck now where we have to make a decision. If this application doesn't go forward, I hate to say this, but we've got a fully negotiated agreement with one of the, and I can't disclose who, but with one of the big three auto parts suppliers. So the big three are O'Reilly's, Advanced Auto, AutoZone. So we have an agreement with one of them, and that's the direction we're going to have to go to. And when I look at it, it just really makes me sad because I don't want to see the gateway to this great city where you pull up and it's an auto parts supplier with the same building, the same look, maybe some paint, make some improvements, clean up the landscaping, get in compliance. But, instead, this big, beautiful building that meets the master plan. We've been hearing for 10 years, push the building to the road, put the parking in the back, create walkability, add art, add lighting, add patio with umbrellas and cafes and benches, and that's what we're trying to do here. So, this gentleman brought up the idea of the monument sign that welcomes you to Troy. I think that's a great idea. I'd love to incorporate that in our facade and just make it even more walkable.
Mr. Fox?
Okay, so I'm just gonna be blunt. It was alluded to, there was another situation with a car wash that was in another similar situation. It was a gateway node. My biggest problem, and the main reason that I opposed that, was because it was an auto-centric use in a neighborhood node that was a gateway to the city. That is the exact same thing that this is. Again, the frosting, the icing on the cake is great. And I want to say, I really like a lot of this. Convenience store, awesome. Restaurant, awesome. I go to the Soroki's in Sterling Heights on my lunch. I drive there, I don't get gas. Me and like 6 of my coworkers will carpool. We get no fuel. We just get the Soroki's for lunch. There is a lot that is really good about this build. EV charging station's awesome. It's just when you tack on gas station, that's when you get like a 42 signature petition opposing the build. That's where you lose me, quite frankly, is when you add the auto-centric use. This would be a fantastic location for a restaurant. This would be the fantastic location for a convenience store that's easily accessible. It's just when you tack on that gas station, I feel like in a way you're almost making it harder for yourself, because that's when you need the special use approval. That's when you get people who are like, oh, another gas station. If you guys just came with this application with no gas station, your hurdle would be like this big. Whereas right now I feel like you have a hurdle this tall to jump. So I get that that's a big part of your model and the way that you've run your other stations. Highly recommend considering a different way of approaching this site, because you have so much that is really good, but it's just gas station attached to it. It can't be a yes for me.
Sure.
Ultimately.
So, Mr. Fox, I hate when we keep using the term gas station. We like convenience store that has a gas component to it. I think I talked about the percentage of volume that we expect from the gas. That's only going to decrease as time goes on. Unfortunately, we could not bring this application in front of you guys and eliminate the pumps, because we're already taking the building down. This is going to be a very expensive site to construct. And unfortunately, Shell, who wants their sign on the canopy, or Mobil, or Amoco, whoever's going to go there, is going to subsidize us to be able to do this. So if you eliminated those, it would be impossible. We'd have to go with our other plan, and I hope that's not going to be the case. I really do. So.
Mr. Lambert?
First, I appreciate the willingness to commit to making sure that restaurant and convenience stores in there at the same time as the gas stations are
Absolutely.
constructed, because we wouldn't want to see just gas pumps go up there and nothing else, because that would defeat the purpose of the neighborhood node. But follow up on Mr. Krent's suggestion, if you go about 2 miles due east to where you're at, Petrozello's has a nice welcome to Troy sign. It was part of a PUD from Mr. Savinant, would probably remember it from like 15 or 20 years ago. And so that would be something to look at. Secondly, you said you're going to have a Shell station there. There's already one across the street, so are they moving to your location, or do they like having 2 Shell stations at the same corner?
I'll let Scott answer that one.
So, we are Shell wholesalers. We're direct with Shell. All our company operations, if you go on our website, I invite you guys to visit our website. You can see all our operations on there. They're all Shell. We're 100% Shell. And the site across the street, like I mentioned before, it's a bit tired. It doesn't do the volume that Shell would like to see it do, so they would allow us approval to do it. And in a lot of locations, you do see Shells across the street from each other. We personally own Shells directly across the street from each other at Maple and Telegraph in Bloomfield Hills, and a mile away at Lasser. And Mr. Fox, I strongly urge you to move away from the perception of the old gas station. So now where they're building them all over the country. And by the way, you would never be able to enjoy Soroki's unless you did visit a gas station, by the way, because they only go into gas stations. That's their model, because it's a nice draw. They help each other, they feed off each other, and it's a win-win for everybody.
Go ahead, Mr. Fox.
No, and believe me, I appreciate it. I appreciate that this model is kind of built around the gas station, or the gas pumps, if you prefer. I don't use the term gas station. I think just ultimately having an auto-centric use be, to me, having an auto-centric use be one of the first things you see when you're engaging with Troy, when you drive into Troy. To top it off, you've got significant number of gas stations already in the area.
There really isn't, though.
Considering that gas sales are they're just going to be decreasing. It's just, I feel like it was even said at some point during the presentation. I mean, the percentage of gas sales is just going down.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I feel like we take the opportunity of the Rite Aid closing and we build a site that's not going to have to change within the next 30 years. And just the way that the auto industry is moving, the way that EVs are just kind of becoming more of the norm, every gas station is eventually going to have to hit this point where they have to ask what they're doing next.
Mm-hmm.
And I see this as an opportunity to get something, a really nice like sit-down restaurant with like, you come in, you park, you do your EV charging, you have like a full meal at the restaurant, a convenience store, which potentially has some kind of prescription capabilities or something, I don't know. I just see attaching the gas stations, the gas pumps to it just seems like something that's just going to create a problem down the line. And I'd like to see if we can just avoid it.
Well, down the line, it's actually going to be exactly what you want it to be. Because all 6 of those islands right there in gas dispensers, one day, probably in our lifetime, will all be electric vehicle chargers. But unfortunately, that day is not today. And to make a return on your investment, to take that building down today, with construction costs and land values and all that, to make any sort of project work, this is our 4th route, like my brother said. And there actually is a void in fuel, because if you look at only going right in and right out on your traffic pattern, if you're driving northbound Crooks, there's no gas station all the way from Maple Road. So that means you're driving, I don't know, 6 or 7 miles, 5 miles, all the way till you get this. That's a long time. And there's 50,000 cars a day driving on Crooks. And then if you go on eastbound South Boulevard to get to the station, there's no station, and I'm not going to count Kroger because the egress on Kroger is horrible. That's designed specifically for that Kroger customer. There's 3 pumps, and it's horrible to go in and out. There's no gas station there until Bloomfield Township all the way on Updike, which is 4 miles. So there actually is a void for fuel. And this is a beautiful, when the entrance, the gateway to Troy is going to show this building. Beautiful building that Mr. Abro designed with gas pumps. But it's a store with multiple food offerings, with electric vehicle chargers, sit-down restaurant, sit-down patio, with fuel offerings. Fuel offerings should be the last thing you look at on this project. And it's going to be one of the most beautiful most beautiful gas stations you've seen in Oakland County.
Yep, Mr. Tagle?
Your patio area, I don't see a lot of screening between Crooks Road and where I'm going to be sitting in the patio, have you considered any other kind of screening there as far as bushes or something?
Shrubs, yes. We don't want to use something hard surface like masonry just because it softens up. We are going to propose using shrubs, nothing more than 24 inches above, just enough to cover the chairs, the backing of the seat itself. But absolutely, but we don't want to have a 3-foot or 4-foot screening. I'm sure that's not what you're looking to propose, just because we want that synergy factor of a local resident who's walking up to the station or somebody who parked, who's waiting for their car being charged. But yeah, it's more of a 24-inch shrubs all the way around itself.
Okay, I don't see those on the plan, so you might want to.
Well, just the landscape plans, yeah.
The other thing is too, although we're talking about a gateway into Troy, this is really an exit out of Troy. However, when you're coming south on Crooks Road and you look at the development of what Kroger did do on their corner, it's really a very nice look. Now, one of the differences is their site is depressed elevation-wise than your site is. So you're not seeing the cars and the pumps and things like that. However, they do have a low masonry wall, they have a nice landscaping, and it really doesn't look like it's a fueling station or a fueling location. So I would really ask you to consider doing something. I'm not asking you to copy or mimic, but just doing something that would kind of balance that intersection. As you're heading south on Crooks Road, you've got this development on the west, do something on the east. And it doesn't have to be anything that's going to screen the building, but it has something to do with kind of creating those barriers or those those edges to Crooks Road as you're coming into Troy.
Absolutely. Actually, with the developers here, we actually done many projects in Royal Oak, Woodward, Rochester Hills. Correct. That could be either a continuous brick screening wall with, at times, centerpieces in regards of actual planters. There's times where we've done just, like you said, signage of Welcome to Troy, things like that nature. Absolutely, there are going to be, we will take that consideration and actually design something for that. Not only in the corner, maybe along the Crooks, and between the building and the actual, since we have the room for itself. North side. I want to make a comment. If I can make, because I don't want to forget this. You mentioned about the EVs and only being 4. Is that enough? I guess there's a couple of concepts of understanding the EV stations. These are not residential grade. These are commercial grade EVs, charging stations. These only are 15, 20 minutes at max. Nobody's gonna, the idea of residential, people, when they come home from work all night, those are, again, the Elon Musk Teslas, the very small modular. These are commercial grade for many reasons. The efficiency of it, actually is even cheaper cost for the power itself than somebody would use it from their local residential home, from a DTE. So these are, again, 15 minutes, 20 minutes at max. And we are looking to the synergy factor of somebody who doesn't want to go to a gas station, but they see EV stations there. Say, hey, I do want to go to a Soroki's Pizza and either sit down or grab something, because these are carry out food users, so they're not, not made to wait a half hour for your food itself. There's a lot of products are prepped and such forth.
So just for someone who doesn't know a lot about EV, so these are considered the public high-speed, they're considered the high-speed EV chargers?
Yes, and to be honest, and to be fair, there's a lot of companies out there that are providing this service to somebody like Scott's team, the C-stores of the world. So they're the ones every month they're creating a new product. And now there's actually something recently somebody mentioned that there's now, before the single unit that was back to back, those are slower. Now they're enhancing now, so they're just as fast having just one EV station for 2 cars. Okay. 6 months ago, that wasn't the case. So every month, every we go by.
Mr. Tagle, did you have something else?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, you mentioned you're going to be carrying the Shell brand. The colors and the materials on your building, was that considered with the Shell yellows and oranges or reds?
Absolutely, as well as Soroki's Pizza.
I guess I'd be interested to see how you pull that off. Pull all those colors together with the band on the canopy and the variety of materials. And just to follow up, I know in the report it was said flipping, let's say one elevation to the other. I want to make sure I understood you're going to take some of the characteristics of that enhanced elevation and move them around the building. Leave the south elevation alone, but enhance the other elevations with elements that are in the south elevation.
Correct, not moving them, adding additional to.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, yes. And regarding the shell does have a red band. Again, our facade has red, and the yellow from the shell, it's very minimal now. Now it's actually more of the LED lights. That's a 3,000 or 4,000 color, and we're using a lot of that same similar light lumens for the building itself. So we did take it into consideration.
Ms. Malala Holly?
Yeah, thank you. Your proposed one-story building is 6,392 square feet, am I correct? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What is the size or the square footage of the restaurant that is going to also be on this property?
That was on our floor plan. Yep, 1,500 square feet.
1,500 square feet, okay. So the pizza place that you are currently negotiating to come onto this location, those hours are going to be separate from the gas station hours. Gas station usually 10, 11, it closes, but the pizza place can be open quite late into the night.
Correct, they do have
They have their own hours.
They'll
Yeah.
have their own hours, okay. My other question is, to the point of what Mr. Carlisle said in his presentation of how are you're going to envelope the building on both the north side, which is the South Boulevard side, and the Crook side. You're going to have the same facade continue, correct? Did I understand that correctly?
That's true, yes.
Yes, you're going to do that,
Taking
okay.
those elements, again, we've used 4 different materials. It's not just one material of masonry, so.
Right.
We're taking the elements of the metal panel, the Nietzsche high or the siding itself component around the both north and the west, correct?
Okay, because the colors look great. The colors look
Additionally, though, so we do have those materials already at the north and west, but yeah, we're adding additionally to them, correct?
Right. Your patio is going to be on the Crook side, correct?
Yes.
Crooks is a pretty fast-moving 2 lanes. Boy, people drive very fast there. So I know you will be, they will be able to access the gas station, but do you think the patio will get the same kind of attention as opposed to it being on South Boulevard side where the traffic is not that horrendous and fast? I'm just throwing out.
Are you
an
worried
idea.
about the traffic pulling into the gas station being near the patio?
Yes,
So the approach for the gas station is all the way on the south end of the property, where the patio is right up by the building. So it's probably 200 feet away from it. So it's very distanced.
but it's still going to be on the Crook side,
It
right?
is going to be on the Crook side, correct.
What are you looking into in terms of patio? Because I know we didn't have any, did we have much information on the canopy? I think we missed the
You mean the
detail on that.
Well, surface will be concrete, just for the durability itself. So that is actually metal panel itself, the red portion of it, and the columns are actually wrapped with mason product. That, again, matches with the building itself. You made a comment about safety of it. Again, was it more of the drive, or are you talking about more referring to the noise itself?
No,
Don't say
drive,
no.
noise.
Don't say noise, there's Big Beaver. Noise, I mean, people love it. I'm next door to Cooper's Hawk. People love sitting outside, Cooper's Hawk did a phenomenal job of adding that outdoor covered canopy. I don't think people are realizing, I love the outdoor seating area, but that canopy, actually, there are other screens there, so we're gonna look into that as well. But a great comment about the shrubs, absolutely. We don't wanna, that's what Cooper's Hawk did. They actually added shrubs, they actually have planter box itself. It creates a little bit of a safety feeling for, again, we are 25 feet though, because we kind of double dipped on the easement itself as we push our building a little further back.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple of questions. You mentioned that it used to be, before it was a Rite Aid, that it was a mobile gas station. So is that right?
Mobile was prior.
We actually learned that after we purchased it, because there was a restriction on it for no fuel for about 25 years that has since then been lifted. So apparently there was a mobile station there like about 30 years ago.
So when I don't know anything about these things, but you're going to go down and you're going to reuse, like the infrastructure is there then for a gas station?
There's no infrastructure there. Everything will be brand new.
Oh, because everything came out.
And a good thing is, we're going to be substantial digging for underground storage tanks and footings for the building and for the canopy. Any sort of soil that is on that property is going to be taken to a special landfill, cannot just be disposed of as regular soil, because it's considered contaminated.
Okay. So a lot has been said tonight, and it's been helpful to hear. We've heard a lot, and that's great. There are a few things that I would like to see, because I think it's pretty preliminary. I would want to see the elevation with the new wraparound, how you're going to add the landscaping to the patio. I'd also like to see these elevations, though, in context of the landscaping, because I want to see what it's going to look like when you're looking from the south, heading north on Crooks, because I think that it's going to do a pretty nice job. Like when you're heading south on Crooks, you're not even really going to know it's a gas station, which is a good thing, from what I can tell. You're not going to know until you actually pass and look over. So I want to know what it's going to look like when you're heading north on Crooks, how you're sort of screening it. So, if you could provide those types of elevations, that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
The other comment I want to make sort of for my fellow planning commissioners as well is in 6.28, the canopy structure shall be designed and constructed in a manner which is architecturally compatible with the principal building. But this is the part. The canopy structure shall be attached to and made an integral part of the principal building unless it can be demonstrated that the design of the building and canopy in combination would be more functional and aesthetically pleasing if the canopy was not physically attached. So we really have to see that. In order for us to allow you not to attach that canopy, we got to see a picture, we got to know what all that's going to look like, and I don't think that's been provided yet.
That is correct. Again, to be fair, guys, this is not the old school mobile Clark stations where the canopy was on top of the building. Are you referring to?
I think you're referring to the food canopy,
No.
Oh,
The
the
gas
fueling
canopy.
canopy.
Yeah,
So
fueling.
with that section you're referring to, are you reading it as if that gas canopy needs to be attached to the actual building structure?
That's what it says.
So they
Yes,
don't do that
is right.
anymore because it completely blocks out the sunlight, and for safety reasons, people don't like it.
Fueling
And
trucks
another
are further
thing,
away.
that stations have been moving away from, and you can see it nationally, is keeping a small, slim, and sleek canopy as possible,
Minimize it.
and sleek canopy columns as possible, because it takes away from the beautiful architecture of the building. And it basically just acts as blockades with those big roofs and those thick canopy fascias and the big brick wrapped columns. They
That's,
like to keep it nice
I
and
believe
simple.
it, and that's fine, but we just need to see it.
That's fine. And if those are your only concerns, I mean, those are very, very minor. We can address those. Only thing I would ask is if we can move the project forward this evening and we can address them either at the next meeting or somehow administratively. I don't think those are big items, issues at all. I think the use is, we can vote on the use itself.
Can I make a comment about this building size itself? Because it does mention the parking, how you look at that. If everybody looked at the floor plan itself, we spent a lot of time and, when we design these floor plans, I mean, if you notice it, yes, there are gas stations that are 3,000 square foot that have more aisles here, more product in this building here. The Barbettes, they're trying to create a product and a product itself so that people don't just feel that they're just shopping in a Kroger and trying to pack everything into one building. They do want that sense of, not feeling somebody's on top of each other, customer service, as they're looking at products. So you'll notice the floor plan itself, there is large open spaces. So if we took those spaces out square foot wise, we're talking about a much smaller building. Yes, they're added because it creates that product for the customer itself. Guys, it's like walking into, these Somerset Mall. Not everybody's just packing a Nordstrom's or a Macy's. There's a lot of new products at the south end. You'll see these larger high-end retail stores. You have wider open spaces to walk by and very minimal product on the shelf itself. Again, the Barbettes don't just have typical toiletry products here. They're looking to providing local products. There's a local popcorn company. So they're not just looking to add Frito-Lays, looking to add a little bit more of certain products that would sell in these kind of stores.
Another question about the restaurant, or the floor plan only shows 2 dining tables. Is that sufficient?
They don't, they ask for more? I don't think they ask for more. They
would love more.
Okay.
If you guys are good with more, they would love more.
Well, I guess, I think I would personally like to see the restaurant be larger.
The restaurant, compared to your typical Soroki's, is about 50% more. The typical one, and we are landlords to majority of them, by the way. We have 5 of them in our gas stations. They're all approximately 1,000 square feet. This one's 1,500 square feet. There's more room than we know what to do with. Not sure why there is only 2 seats.
Well, no, you know what, you missed the 6, well, it's only 6 stools on the north end.
Yeah.
Which faces outside to the,
We
to
can
the
definitely
north.
up it
over
to
there, I
18
see.
to 24.
And it doesn't include the outdoor patio, but.
Okay. Does anyone ever have questions for the applicant? Yeah,
One quick
Mr.
one. What are your hours of operation for both the gas and the convenience
restaurant-
store and the restaurant?
The restaurant likes to open from 10 to 10, maybe 10 to 11 on busy intersections. We preferably like to open 24 hours. Opening 24 hours allows for the local municipalities, the fire department, the police to have somewhere to go, possibly congregate, maybe get something to eat. It's very convenient. Not a lot of places open 24 hours. Another thing, it's easy for our operation. So when you take 24 hours in a day, a typical shift is 8 hours. It goes 8, 16, 24. You know that the station gets open in the morning. If nobody shows up, the manager gets a call and they're scrambling, they're trying to get it open. You know the station's open. You know it's never closed for our customers. It's always there for the convenience of the customer. A lot of cleaning gets done overnight, so it's very beneficial for us to open 24 hours. If it's a huge deal to open 24 hours, we have sites that do not open 24 hours and we can revise the hours.
I like 24 hours, that's fine.
Thank you.
Makes sense, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr.
Reminder, it's a
Sullivan.
public hearing.
Yep, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to move on to the public hearing part of the section. So if anyone's here from the public who wants to speak on this topic, we're going to allow you to come up. We ask you to sign in. Mr. Savinant's going to keep the timer. Right, Mr. Savinant?
yes.
Okay, you get 3 minutes. You'll see it'll be green. That'll give you a 1-minute warning, and then when it's red, I will cut you off. So we're going to keep it moving. So go ahead and come on up if anyone's here to speak on this topic, on this application.
Hi, I've never spoken before in front of anybody, besides my barbecue people. That's it. So, when the car wash wanted to go in, okay, they came to us, they spoke to us, I was concerned about my fire lane, I was concerned about my parking, I was concerned about in and outs. We don't have enough parking as it is, so I don't know what the shared parking is because we don't even have enough to sustain. Ed, the bakery just went in, he's blooming, we're blooming, everybody's blooming. My main issue, I love the idea of a business going next to us. We need it in that plaza. My main concern is that building in the front. That building in the front is gonna block us. It's gonna completely block us from anybody at that Four Corners seeing us. We have, for the last 5 years, I took this restaurant over December 1st of 2019, the pandemic hit. I put in $200,000 into this business, and then boom, I was dead. I've clawed tooth and nail to keep the store open. I'm the dishwasher, I'm the pit boss, I'm the owner, I'm the counter person, I'm everything. And that building in the front, it really upsets me because I don't know why it can't be flipped and have the building towards the back and have the gas station at the front if that was a thing, and we'd still get view. And another thing is, we have literally picked people up bloody. Children coming into our store at that corner. They're going 45 miles. The speed limit says 45. But if you think they're coming off South Boulevard or they're coming off Crooks, and we've seen trucks on fire, SUVs tipped over, and just the traffic there. If possibly you put a 35, start 35 and come down 35 towards there, and then there would be, but I speak for a couple of us, 8 of us at our plaza, and we just, we just say there's not going to be any shared parking. There's no study from California is gonna, do for us, but we don't have enough parking. We park in the Rite Aid parking lot. Well, we don't, but, customers, and plus the dojo. The Dojang, every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, there's hundreds of cars, and the overspills go over too. So I see that as a competing thing where we're all gonna be fighting. Hey, I'm all for new businesses, I'm all for new businesses opening, but, our fire lane is very important to us there. That fire lane, you figure, we got out this way, we have an out that way, but around our building, we do not have an out. The doctor's office does not. The doctor's office, the violin repair shop, the magazine place, the only out they have is that fire lane or the out on Crooks.
Okay, thank you. I've got yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, yep, thank you. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak on it?
How you doing? I think they can accomplish everything they're talking about with the current building. I don't understand what the gas is needed so badly. I think it's going to cause a lot of congestion, a lot more traffic. Crooks is already a busy road, and I think we have the two churches there that might be affected by this, plus the nursing home. Also, I have a question for you guys. If you approve this, can they turn around and sell it to someone else? 7-Eleven, Sheetz, Speedway. Maybe that's why the gas component is very important. And I think it's going to crush the business across the street, the Shell business across the street, so, and other restaurants in the plaza and stuff. I think they can do what they want to do, what they're planning to do, and do better with the 11,000 square feet they have. They could put EV chargers, they could put a convenience store, they could put several restaurants, they have a drive-through on the back. I don't understand why they have to have the gas, and why they have to have a special use. And I'm asking, can they resell this tomorrow? We approve it, can they resell it to Sheetz? Sheetz is being very competitive trying to come in this area. Sheetz is not a business that I think is a good fit for Troy. I mean, I don't think, especially on this corner. This is a nice luxury area, nice luxury corner, and I don't think if these guys turn around and say, hey, here you go, Speedway, you can have it, or 7-Eleven. I don't think that's what we want here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Marcia Batzenberger, once again. Just some thoughts. I can really appreciate their design. It's a very nice design. It has a lot to offer. My thoughts as I was listening was the family-owned gas station that's right on the northwest corner. I've been in there a lot. I run a very nice family, husband, wife, son, they're always there. So I can appreciate that location. I never find that location busy. There's always a spot, you never have to wait. You never really have to wait at Kroger to get gas there. So the need for that location, another gas station, I would say no. This design, I actually could see it closer to I-75, closer to 18 in Crooks. I could see high schoolers using it, that type of thing. But for that location, I just don't see the need for a gas station. The Rite Aid building is fairly new. So to tear something down that is in totally good condition, that's not falling apart, to me is a waste of materials, and it's just going to go into the landfill. I'm sure some will be recycled, but that's a thought. EV stations, there's 2 EV stations at Nino's. Never see anyone there, ever. And trust me, I'm at Nino's multiple times a week. It's my savior when I forget something. So, and there's, according to Google, I Googled it, there's 3 EV stations at Crooks and I-75. But I'm just going to say that I think there's a better location, but it is a very nice design. And I could see it being, be more profitable for them if it was closer to I-75. Thanks.
Thanks.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Eric Rabin, owner of 801, 803 West Big Beaver with my partner Dennis Bostic. I wanted to thank you guys for all your help with our Hyatt and City Council and what have you. To me, I have no intent of speaking, but I noticed on this agenda, this Rite Aid, CVS, soon to be Walgreens problem. And I have one and I'm just trying to figure out how to accommodate it, but a lot of these buildings are gonna have to be ripped down. So I would encourage, compromise is gonna have to happen, but to focus on the strength of the developer, the owner, that type of thing, because this is a hard thing to do, ripping down, buildings that are this substantial. But it's a tricky situation for everybody, so I know you guys are used to navigating through all this, but there's a greater problem, and it's only growing, so good luck to you all.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
My name is Giovanni. Our family owns the Shell. My bad, I'm nervous. I just don't think 3 gas stations on one corner, there's no point of that. I've talked to customers and family members that lived in Troy, and the past 30 years, I haven't seen like a lot of, how do I say it? Exceptions in the city of Troy to build another fuel station. And I like the design, but a fuel station, like another one, and the third, even though we're not that busy also. So 3 gas stations on one corner, I feel like there's no point. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here?
Good evening, thanks. I'm Steve Sadler. I'm a neighbor of this area. I live in the High Oak subdivision, which is just east at the stoplight. My wife and I built our home in the High Oak subdivision 39 years ago, so we've been in this area a lot and going to the Kroger's and the barbecue and the bakery, Ida's Bakery, and so on. I've got 2 different ways to look at this. One, I don't really think that we need a 3rd gas station. Like the woman that said earlier that she's never seen a big lineup of people waiting to get gas at the 2 gas stations that are there. I don't really think that we need another buying opportunity for alcohol, driving up at a gas station like there is at the Shell station across the way. I'm concerned about how it will affect the businesses to the east and the strip mall. Using the same entrance on South Boulevard. No one spoke or asked a question about how would large refueling trucks come into there and park to offload their gas when that same entrance coming in off of South Boulevard that affects the strip mall, and then the other is coming off of Crooks Road. So something to think about. I'm also an EV owner, so when I saw that the idea that there was going to be a couple of chargers, and then I saw 4, then I saw the possibility when looking at the documents that were online, is that 16 is like, great, because even though things maybe have slowed down a little bit, I will not go back. I've only had my Mach-E since July, and it is the best vehicle I've ever had, and if you drive one, you won't go back either if you try it. It would be a great place for EV chargers because people getting off of I-75 and coming north, it's a short distance because when I've gone traveling to Cleveland, for example, I had to plan my trip where I was going to be getting off to charge. So having something close, 2 miles away, no problem. Also then to get back on 75 going to north, everybody that's going up to their cottages from Ohio, they could get right back on 59 and then right over to 75 and they're on their way. So as an EV driver, it works for me in that way. If it is DC fast chargers like 350 and above, the woman that spoke about that there were chargers at Crooks and I-75, oh yeah, there's some for if you want to work, if you're working in that building and you want to plug it in, and it's going to be plugged in all day. It's like plugging it into the wall outlet over here, which I first had to do when I first got my vehicle before I had a charger put in my garage. I was wondering also, I never saw on the maps also, if it was DC fast chargers, you know, where the switch gear, electrical panels, distribution panel, transformers, where those would be located on the property. I didn't see any place for those. And if you're going from 4 to 16 eventually, that equipment has to be put someplace. The closest EV 350 chargers here, since I live right here, it's 2.9 miles to go to the Myers over on Adams to go to the fastest charger. And the next one is going to the Myers down in Royal Oak. The next one.
Thank you. I have to cut you off to make it fair for everyone. Thank you.
Can I say one more thing about the parking? You shouldn't park in an EV charger. If that's true, then I should be able then to take my EV, park in the gas spot, and go into the store or the restaurant and leave my car at the gas pumps.
Good point.
Or at the,
Is there anyone else in line? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Hello, Arsen Cook. I've been living in Troy for 30 years now, and I honestly think this is a great addition to the Troy. Not that people are sometimes afraid when they hear the word gas station, but I think what is being added there is a value-added business to the Troy. I think Troy is the city of tomorrow, we call it. And if it's the city of tomorrow, and let's just start building businesses or bring businesses that really are looking at the future. I recently had a trip from Michigan to Arizona, and it was a long trip. You can tell which are the gas stations or the convenience stores that are the most updated, and you can see the one that Troy currently has. I haven't seen anything like that in Troy, and I would like to see one of those as a citizen of Troy. Now, some people say, why we want a restaurant, we don't want a gas station. We can't dictate the business owners what kind of business they want to do. If I want a restaurant, I don't want to go there. If I want to sit to a restaurant, I want to go there because there is a convenience store and the gas station next to it. That's what I want to go there. So there is a place for everything. And this is not one of those places, for example, that the business want to build something that people can go there and eat. They want to build something, they go there, they're fill up the gas, grab something from convenience store, or sit down and eat if they want something else. So how can get any better than that? So if we want to poke holes on every business idea, I can stay here all day, all night, and then poke hole on every business idea, even if it's a restaurant or a gas station or anything. But I think it's not welcoming to our city to look from the negative perspective. We need to look from the positive perspective. Some people might have their own interests that they want a gas station built or a restaurant or convenience store there. But me as a citizen, I honestly don't know both sides of this, but I'm interested in this because I live close to the area. I would really like to see something like that, honestly, and then it will be welcoming to the city of Troy since this is in the corner there. So, I mean, that's what I want to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
All right, so I'm just a new business owner in the plaza next to it. And I mean, beautiful project. It's the future, basically. The only concern is like the lady here, she's next to me, it's the traffic. So she mentioned the karate, especially when they got that tournament. It's a mess there. Like they park all over, they park behind the building, they park all the way around the former Rite Aid. So, and the access point, the traffic, I think it's just gonna be horrible. The way the building also is gonna sit on the south side of the, basically facing South Boulevard, we have no visibility at all on the Crook side, like basically cut out. And being at Plaza, we can easily miss it out and have neighbors, like we've been there for almost a year, and they don't even know we're there because it's very easy to miss it. I don't know the difference, does it make any difference being a gas station that close to the towers also, the 5G towers? I don't know if there's any interaction with that. They just upgraded to 5G. That's something I'm not that familiar with. Just wondering. But the parking and the visibility and the access in and out, that's a big deal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm probably the youngest one here so far. 27 years old. I lived in Troy pretty much my whole life. Good evening, everyone, commission members, neighbors. I'm here to back the Barbot Troy Vehicle Fueling and Multi-Use Station at Crooks and South Boulevard. And I just want to share a few thoughts why I think it's a good idea. One thing that stands out to me is those electrical chargers. So I've looked into it, and those things only take 20 minutes to charge up, which is the quickest that I know of. That's insane to me. For someone like me, that's a game changer. I could pop in, charge my car, and just be on my way without missing a beat. I also think it would make this corner safer and cleaner. So right now it's just sitting there, sort of neglected. A station like this with good lighting and upkeep could keep the area tidier and feel more secure, especially at night. It's about making our streets better, not worse. And not to mention the 24-hour aspect to it. Not only is that good for officers, but it ensures that officers and ambulance workers will be there. So, safety. And can we talk about how nice it would look? I've seen the plans, and it's beautiful, sharp, modern, a real standout. I think it could be the start of more projects like it, spreading some real beauty around Troy. We deserve a city that looks as good as it feels to live here. I can totally see myself stopping by all the time, whether it's for a change, for a charge, a snack, or just because it's there. This feels like something my generation would use and love. So I'm asking you to support this. It's practical, it's pretty, and it's for folks like me who want to keep Troy moving forward. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you. All right, anyone else here tonight for this application?
My name is Kelly, and I am very familiar with this corner. I think this would be an amazing thing for the city. There's a lot of benefits to it. It would very much cater to a younger generation as well, since that is the future of what's going to be happening. I know everybody's really concerned about the gas pumps, and that's been a big issue during this whole entire meeting, but that's just a small portion of the entire project. It's not the main reason for this development. And I am very familiar with a lot of the work that the Barbats have done, and I know that everything they will do in getting this prepared and opening up will be top-notch as far as vendors and plans and everything else they need to do. I feel for the family across the street, because they're concerned, they have a Shell gas station as well. But as Scott mentioned, they're familiar with other stations that are directly across the street from each other, and they've been fine. So, not to take away from this family that has a station, but I just want to maybe ease their mind that this is not going to be something that would not be acceptable. There's different ways of traffic, and whichever direction people are going in is the station that they will choose. But as far as everything else that's going to be in this property, I believe it would be very beneficial to the city, and it would be a great gateway to Troy, as you're calling it. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Albana, and I'm a resident of Troy for more than 25 years here, and I am here to support the Barbat project. The pictures that I've seen, the drawing that I've seen, none of the gas station in Troy, I would say, that has that construction. And as a mom of teenagers, when my daughter went to fill gas at the gas station, I would accompany her, because the gas stations are not state-of-the-art in our area, I would say. But this gas station, it doesn't even feel like a gas station. It feels like a plaza. So having the kids in the neighborhood go there, fill their cars as they are teenagers, start driving, having a gas station, it's the safest place to go when it's open, when you have people coming, going for food, for convenience store, for gas, for charging. It's too many components to this project that make it as a whole. I know there is a gas station next intersection or in front of it, but doesn't the businesses compete with each other to make their service better for the clients, for the customers, for the neighborhoods? So we shouldn't consider this as a bad thing, but as a good thing. It makes us compete, because in today's world, everybody competes for a job, for a business, for a better service. Don't we want that? We starve for better service, right? And I think this is a better service. So we should accept it.
Thank
you.
you. Is there anyone else here to talk about this project? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing, and we are going to turn it back to Planning Commissioner discussion. Go ahead, Mr. Lambert.
Do we want to have Mr. Deering come up now and address any questions we might have about traffic impact.
If anyone has any questions for Mr. Deering? Okay, I think we're all set. Does anyone, yes, Mr. Faison?
A question for Brent. So a question arose from the public comment about if we approve this today as a special use for a gas station, could that site then be potentially redeveloped and look completely different, like a Sheetz or a huge gas station that takes up that whole parcel?
Well, the question was, could it be sold? And yes, it could be sold. Any privately owned parcel could be sold.
No, I understand that.
If there's any modifications that are proposed for it, it would have to come before this board as an if someone bought it and wanted to expand the use, that's an expansion of a special use. It would require a public hearing, notification, and coming before this board with a complete site plan application and special use application.
So we'd go through the same special use approval process?
Yes.
It wouldn't be a by right?
No, the sale would be by right.
No, understood.
not
I meant the redevelopment.
Not the redevelopment.
Yeah, okay.
Wait, but let me ask this, because you said if there was any expansion, but what if a gas station that was sold to a gas station and they decided to come in and put a gas station with just a small convenience store that looked nothing like this? Because now we've approved a gas station on that corner.
Well, so if they're going to change the design of the building, it would come before this board.
Okay.
So my assumption is someone's going to buy this, they're going to utilize what's there, they're going to change the signage, and they're going to continue on with this use. If they want to make any modifications that are in any way significant, then they'd have to come before this board.
Okay. Mr. Fox?
I guess a question for the planning department. Correct me if I'm wrong, we're voting yes, no, or postpone on this today, right? Because there was some mention from the applicant, it sounded like maybe there was some confusion that there would be multiple hearings. I mean, this is a yes, no, or postpone vote we're about to have, right?
Yes, that's my assumption. Now I think what I think you're referring to Mr. Barbat, Dwayne Barbat. Every community is different how they deal with preliminary site plan approval and final site plan approval. Some you have to go before the planning commission for everything, some you don't. In this instance, final site plan approval is administrative. So if they were to be granted preliminary site plan approval and special use approval tonight or at some point in the future, the next step would be to submit final engineering plans, and that review and approval is administrative.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's important, that we all understand that. So okay. Technically, we're supposed to have a motion on the floor before we start discussing.
I could do that.
Yep, Mr. Tagle?
But a question, I guess, Mr. Carlisle, the loading space. There's going to be fuel trucks there, and there's also going to be food service trucks there and convenience store deliveries. I see the one loading out, but what I believe is a loading space, it's not called out that way, it would be east of the pumps. And that loading space looks like it does encroach on the drive aisles. Is there any concern with that? Because I have no idea scheduling-wise when the fuel trucks are going to be there, when the convenience store trucks or the restaurant trucks will be there delivering.
I mean, I think that'd be a question for the applicant to answer in terms of when the scheduling of the proposed deliveries are going to be. I will say that the Planning Commission has granted waivers to loading spaces in the past because more often for a use such as this, other than the fueling trucks, most everything else will be delivered via a smaller box truck or something smaller. It would not be a semi-truck that would come in to service these types of facilities. But I think the applicant can answer the question about the details better than I could.
Depending on the timing of it all, are you all right with the loading zone encroaching on the drive aisles?
And you're talking about the loading aisle that would be located between the canopy?
It's on the east of the pumps, and it's encroaching both northward and southward from the pumps. I assume those are 24.
Yeah, well, I also know, I don't have a pointer here, but if you'll see, Mr., there is a drive lane that runs, I think, so the neighbors next door refers to it as a fire lane. It's actually it's a full drive lane that runs parallel to the site. So the loading space is here. If anyone is stuck, there is access on this side of the drive aisle. So really, there are avenues to escape the site if there is a truck in this particular location at any point. So we don't have as much concern with any sort of traffic congestion because there are multiple outlets within this parking lot.
Okay, accept that. I think what I would like to see are the turning geometries of a fuel truck with the geometries and the curves that they have here, because it looks pretty tight.
If I could just say one thing on fuel deliveries. With regards to deliveries, fuel deliveries and convenience store or restaurant deliveries would never interfere with each other. The good thing is we own and operate our own fuel trucks, carriers, and we're Shell wholesalers. A lot of gas stations out there need to engage with somebody like me who is the fuel wholesaler that sells them the fuel. We are direct. So I can dictate when and how my fuel trucks go there. Fuel deliveries will take place probably 2 days a week, the most 3, and I can make them all overnight deliveries. So in that way, it will no way interfere with any deliveries for the convenience store. And just to address the concern about us possibly selling this, we've never sold a property in our lives. If you look at the history of my company, we own and operate our own stores. We take pride in it. This is right in our backyard. And if Sheetz or Speedway, I think that's the biggest concern of everybody, if this was to be sold to them, their footprint is a lot different and their elevations are a lot different, and they have to be that way, and they will never open without that way, and therefore they have to come in front of you guys for approval. So we have no intentions whatsoever of selling this.
So I hope that puts everybody at ease in regards of that comment about Sheetz. To that point, guys, most communities are having trouble with Sheetz because of these 2 to 4 acre sites. That's the reason why. I want to mention about the canopy because that is important. The Barbets actually, if you guys notice, the design of the canopy is the minimum footprint from a visibility from either main roads. What that means is Sheetz and Speedways, even Kroger across the street, Circle K, they have what they call a dive approach. It is 200, 300 linear feet by 20 feet. So the Barbets make sure that we try to limit or minimize as much canopy as possible, just so that the attention is for the building itself and not the canopy of the building, the gas pumps. Regards of Dwayne Barbet, he mentioned about other approvals, and yes, the administrative approval. Have spoke to the owners itself. The 2 considerations that we definitely want to make changes to is the facades as well as the elements of Welcome to Troy that we work with the city planners. So those are things that are going to be actually modified and take into consideration of the changes made. So we will add those components to the project.
Thank you.
If approved.
Yeah, Mr. Lambert?
Ask a
Yeah,
quick
go ahead,
question
go ahead,
while you're up
before you
here.
sit down.
For your neighbors just to the east of you on south who've expressed some concerns about the impact on their businesses, I know it's better for there to be an active business at that location for them than it is to have an empty building sitting there. But on the other hand, I am concerned about the visibility of their location. Are you able to work with them on landscaping to make sure it's going to be visible for traffic going down on South Boulevard so that they can see their businesses?
Great point. If you guys notice the site plan design, you notice the drive out to the east. You guys notice how there's probably, I think, 40 feet or so, maybe 50 feet between the building itself and the actual drive aisle. So we didn't make the building as wide as possible along South Boulevard for those main reasons. And unfortunately to the neighbors, we're in a situation where to redevelop, we're forced to be in this location. Can we leave the building and just put gas canopy pumps in the front? I guess not. That's the reason why we're here. And actually, with the drive aisle heading north and south between the 2 different properties, this is actually going to help for the fire safety, just because right now the right actually is pretty much almost up to the lot line of the drive aisle. So we've now eliminated the footprint of the building to the northwest corner of the property. So that actually helps with emergency vehicles coming onto either the client's or the developer's property as well as the property next door, which is the shopping center. I know it's not noticeable as well here with the shopping center, but I think they're 30 feet or so apart from each other, just enough for a drive aisle. So this does help with the emergency vehicles and such forth.
Thank you.
We have great confidence of all turning radiuses of any vehicles and trucks. Again, these are C-stores. These are not Kroger. We don't have semi-trucks, multiple semi-trucks. These are small box trucks, such as, local vendors, milks and things like that.
So a Cisco truck, excuse me, a Cisco truck, small trailer truck wouldn't be delivering anything to your convenience?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's not, we don't, well, no, are you saying we don't have multiple semi-trucks being delivered for products?
The largest truck will be your fuel truck,
That is correct.
but you're going to have tractor-trailer trucks like Cisco could pull up with foodstuffs for Soroki's or for your.
That is correct, but they're not large semi-trucks. A lot of times they're actually, those are more for Burger King where they deliver fill up entire walk-in. These are more, a little bit smaller trucks itself. But there may be occasionally one or two trucks.
Well, I would like to see the turning job.
Absolutely.
for
And that's
the
something we can
fuel
provide.
truck. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Oh.
Had a resolution then.
Oh, Mr. Crump, did you have a resolution?
Yeah, I could put one together. Resolve that special use approval and preliminary site plan approval for the proposed Barbat Troy vehicle fueling / multi-use station, southeast corner of Crooks and South Boulevard at 1981 South Boulevard, Section 4, currently zoned NN Neighborhood Node District, be postponed so that the developer can review and revise their plans from the feedback they received from the commission. And those items are, first of all, address the gateway signage that you would incorporate in your plans for this development. Indicate the turning radiuses for the various delivery trucks on the site. Provide a good illustration of the finished gas pump canopy. Provide the revised elevation views for the south elevation and the west elevation so that we can see what your thoughts are on that. Provide some type of screening for between Crooks Road and the dining patio that would be aesthetically pleasing. Show where, as far as where those other future EV stations would be located. And I'm going to ask the rest of my commission if there's any additional add-ons to that before I conclude.
Mr. Tegel?
Did you mean the north facade? Yes. And the
Oh,
west
did I say
facade?
the South Boulevard, but,
He meant South Boulevard side.
yeah, okay. South Boulevard side and the west side. Okay, it'll be the north side and the west.
Mr. Lambert, did you?
Yeah, Mr. Kren, did you also want to include specificity for the EV charging stations? Is it going to be the
fast
type 2 or type 3 or whatever?
I don't know the technical terms, even though my degree is electrical engineering, but that was over 50 years ago. Whatever.
They passed it around, but it doesn't really,
Yeah.
we're like, is
Yeah.
this the best?
Yeah, they said it's the best. I looked at it, and it did say the outputs were 0 to 250 amp continuous with a boost of 400 amp, 500 amp maximum. And you know what's going to happen next year? This will all be revised again, and every year after that. So I'm going to leave it up to them to decide the best fast charger that they can provide.
So we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Or does someone, are we still amending
Any
it?
additional?
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. There is also a question about the decorative light fixture that we did not get a
Okay.
chance to discuss. Whether we like it, whether we are considering it as part of this application. There is also the canopy of the EV stations, whether it is,
We don't-
that they will,
There's no canopy on the EV stations.
I believe
Just
there
the
is.
gas stations that I-
Ensure canopy materials match the design, oh, sorry, yes, not EV. Ensure canopy materials match the design of the building. That
Yes,
is one of the
and they
considerations.
yes, they indicated that, but that's a good add. I would add that too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mr. Lambert?
One more thing, and Ms. Dufresne might determine whether we should include this or not. The applicant indicated a willingness to have some kind of conditions as far as the restaurant being open at the same time the gas pumps are. Is that appropriate to include in Mr. Krentz' resolution or not?
If it's appropriate to include it for them to come back with what they're willing to do. I mean, it sounds like they want to do it for 24 hours, but if they are willing to come forward with some, it's an appropriate condition to put for when they come back, what they're offering to do.
Okay.
Okay, we'll add that too.
Well, I don't know that it was the 24-hour thing. I think it
No,
was
it's talking about
the issue
opening
of,
both at the same time or.
Yes, the
Right.
construction time.
My answer is it's an appropriate condition to put on in terms of postponing so they can bring back that information when we
Yeah.
consider it again.
Okay, so.
we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Lambert. Ms. Zarnicki, did you catch all that?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so sometimes we don't do it this way, but the idea is to have the motion on the floor and then we can discuss. It doesn't mean we have to go right to a vote. So we're discussing now.
Can I just say, Madam Chair, thank you. I have been harping on this.
I know, I'm trying.
Thank you.
It's
Yes, this
almost
is how-
March.
Yes, let motion first, then discussion.
Yeah,
Thank
so we're trying. Okay. So I got it in real quick.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's have the discussion. Mr. Fox.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on, there's been a number of residents and then also planning commissioners who've kind of addressed like, there is like a family-owned gas station that's also nearby. I guess I just want to advise caution on behalf of the planning commissioners. Where I work in the city of Sterling Heights, there was a similar situation where a car wash was proposed, actually nearby where I live, where one of the reasons that was cited for denying the car wash is that there was an existing family-owned car wash. Sterling Heights got sued and they lost the lawsuit, and now that car wash is being built. So while we are discussing this gas station, it is absolutely important to acknowledge the surrounding businesses and that there are other gas stations on that corner. I would just advise caution in any of us saying, yeah, we want to support the family-owned gas station, and that's why, because for me, those aren't the reasons that I have concerns with this project, even though I do understand wanting to address family businesses. So just for the sake of hopefully making Mr. Frain's job easier and not getting us sued, just throwing that out there.
Thank you. That's a point well taken.
It's job security for me.
I think we covered, I mean, from my view, I was a little bit concerned about the fueling station. I did like the design of the building. I mean, on the one hand, the very first thing I wrote down when I was reviewing was, why aren't we repurposing the building, just from a standpoint of sustainability? And I did want to ask, because there have been a couple of things thrown out there. I mean, in this case, I get it. If they make any changes, then they have to move the building forward because we're in a node, and unfortunately, to the businesses to the east, it overshadows them a little bit, and I did notice that, but that's the ordinance. Right now, they have to move up to the road. But if they weren't to change the footprint of the building, they're allowed to keep the nonconformity, right?
It sounds like, I mean, it sounds like Mr. Barbat had relayed that if for some reason this was not approved, they would come in with an auto supply, and I would think the assumption would be just use the existing Rite Aid building for that use. So,
Right.
yeah, if the building, if it's a reuse of the building, they can certainly
Keep it.
keep the building, but they couldn't work out a new fueling station and keep the building and comply with the zoning ordinance standards. To Mr. Barbat's point, we worked with him very lengthy in detail with regards to a auto vehicle wash in the proposed, renovating the building for a vehicle wash, and it just didn't work from a number of different reasons, in part because of the master plan, and, you know, Mr. Fox brought the issue about vehicular use. That's a purely vehicular use. We looked at this as vehicular. The fueling station really was a component to the larger use of the property, which included the convenience store and the restaurant use. So we looked at it a little bit differently than how we viewed the vehicle wash for this particular site. So
Okay,
probably
thank you.
more detailed to your question.
Yeah.
But a little context to our.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, I guess that is how I'm seeing it. I mean, it's a much more beautiful building than what's there now. And it works in the sense that I don't believe it adds traffic because, as we said, most people are out anyway and they stop here for the gas. And I do want to see those renderings to see how, when you're coming, what you really see. Are you seeing a gas station, or are you seeing a convenience store and a restaurant, and then it just happens to have some pumps in the back, or EV stations? But after going through it, do see this, for me, this is an acceptable use.
I have a comment.
Yes.
So this is a question for, I guess, Brent. We kind of talked about it a little during our pre-meeting, but the gateway to Troy signage. We need to really city needs to have, not we, the city needs to have some kind of a consistency, because there is a color scheme to the city, there is a logo to the city, there is a kind of a branding to the city that we want to keep uniform throughout. Whichever entrance we are talking about to the city of Troy. So I just want to make sure that there is some kind of uniformity and conformity to that signage, especially when it comes to such projects. We don't know how is it going to be a monument sign. If it is a monument sign, is it going to be a stone? Is it going to be a metal? Is it going to be a combination, colored? I mean, there are so many things to consider about that. So that's one point that I wanted to make. And just for the record, I don't know whether it was captured, so I'm just going to mention this. We have 43 signed petition here and 12 emails that were received by the Planning Commission, unless I'm missing something, just so we have it on the record.
Yes, please, Mr.
Yeah,
Savinacci.
sitting here right now, I don't know if there's an appetite, or more importantly, a budget for the city to put up a gateway sign, and I don't know if right now there's a standardized I don't believe there's a standardized design that would be appropriate for all gateway intersections into the city. So it may be that at this point, perhaps we seek an easement for a sign, like a location and an easement for a sign from the applicant, and move forward that way. But I can certainly vet this internally prior to the next planning commission meeting and get direction from management on that matter.
Yeah. The Welcome to the Troy road sign is very consistent. I just want to see that kind of consistency, because you could do the Troy sign circle, you could do rectangle, you could do pentagon shape. I mean, there are so many shapes you can go on to do it. Is that how we want to do it, or does the city want to have consistency and uniformity?
And I do believe that the parks have just gone through and standardized all the park signs in the city of Troy, and they look pretty nice. So, I mean, I don't know how it works with the money and all, who pays for what, but I mean, I love when an applicant comes and says, oh yeah, we'll put the sign up for you, but maybe we give them what we want to see, so it's standard.
Yeah, and it really hit the nail on the head. The city has a brand, and the parks, you're right, there's a new community center sign, there's new park signs, they look great. Is that the same brand that we want entering the city? I don't know. I don't believe so. So I just don't want to commit to, even if the applicant volunteers to construct the sign, I don't want to commit to a design without other people getting involved in the review and approval of that sign.
Understood. Mr. Tagle?
Yeah. As you have your discussions with management, there may be elements that we would want to see consistently throughout the gateways, but there are other aspects that could be different, although the element is there, or elements are there as recognizable elements, whether it's a brick wall or something else, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mr. Fox?
Would the planning office be able to just confer with the applicant and see if the applicant has any examples of similar projects that they have in Oakland County where they're proposing something like this that we could maybe either find images of or try to see? I indicated earlier, I go to the Soroki's in Sterling Heights. It doesn't look anything similar to this specific construction, so the applicants indicated they had other similar builds, so if there was something that maybe they would direct us to say, hey, if you want to get a vibe of how this feels, you can go to this one at this intersection. If you wouldn't mind just conferring with them and sending that out to Planning Commission after the meeting, if that's possible.
Well, I think they heard you. So.
Yeah, I just state for the record. So, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Faison.
Just a question on the special use standards. On page 20 in the packet, number 6 looks cut off, so I was curious what the second sentence reads in full. It says, this says impact on the overall environment, and then in the packet it says the proposed special use shall know, and it looks like it's a sentence that's been cut off. But is it's just impact on overall environment?
These are the summarized version of those. They're in zoning ordinance. I can look it up. I can look it up for you and give you what you said.
Are you talking about the impact on the overall environment?
I'm sorry?
The impact on the overall environment, is that the one you're asking about?
Yes,
So
number
the
6.
sentence in the ordinance says the proposed special use shall not unreasonably impact the quality of natural features and the environment in comparison to the impacts associated with typical permitted uses.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, so we have a motion for postponement, and I think we're ready for the roll call.
Okay. Mr. Hudson?
No.
Mr. Krant?
Yes.
Mr. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Malala
Yes.
Ms. Parekis?
Yes.
Mr. Jago?
Yes.
Mr. Faison?
Yes.
Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Yep. Okay, so we're moving on.
Madam Chair, would it be possible to take a quick break?
Yes, it would be. Let's take a 5-minute break, is that fine?
Thank you.
Yes, my legs are, need a scratch. Don't be shy. You're the boss.
Okay, our 5-minute recess is over, and so we're going to try to resume now.
School's
If
back.
everyone could please take their seats.
School is back in session. Please return to your desks.
Okay, students.
All right, where am I? Okay, we're all a little punchy.
Yeah, shit, 9:30 and now we're getting an item 2.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for allowing us that brief recess to stretch our legs and use the bathroom. We're going to move on now to our second public hearing of the night. It's a conditional rezoning application, JPCR 2025-001. It's the proposed Village of Hastings, east side of Livernois, north of Square Lake, PIN 8820-03, 301-88-23-24-25 and 88-20-03-351-004, Section 3, presently zoned Neighborhood Node Q and R1B one-family residential zoning districts. And I believe Mr. Carlisle is going to present.
Yes, thank you. This project, or this site, should be very familiar to the Planning Commission and the public. Subdivision site is located on the east side of Livernois, north of Square Lake. Again, it wraps around the northwest corner of the intersection. It's, instead of a PUD that we heard previously, it's a conditional rezoning from R1B and neighborhood node to RT attached residential. The proposal is to construct 22 new residential units and preserve 3 of the existing homes that front on Livernois. The site includes five parcels. It's a mix right now of R1B and neighborhood node zoning. We do note that R1B zoning does not permit multifamily townhomes as being proposed. We note that the zoning in the surrounding area is predominantly R1B single-family zoning, but there is neighborhood node, again, at that intersection. I do want to remind the Planning Commission that there was an approved plan for a 14-unit development at the neighborhood node section of the development. That's the southern end of the development. It's on one of the parcels that zone neighborhood nodes. Again, the Planning Commission did consider a PUD for the site. It was submitted for 30 units, 30 new units, and preserved 3 units. The PUD was recommended for denial by the Planning Commission. I think my information was wrong. It did go to the City Council, and the City Council ended up denying the application. So I apologize for that mistake. We do note that the current application reduces the number of units proposed by 8 total units. The applicant has voluntarily offered the following conditions for consideration. The total number of units in the area to be rezoned RT will not exceed 22. And we will note that 3 of those single-family residential parcels on the R1B will be preserved as part of the development. The maximum height of all units shall not exceed 28 feet. The approved 3-story townhome project will be abandoned and not constructed, the one that was previously approved. In addition, another offered is the preliminary site plan, which I'll go over for the project, is part of the condition offered. The proposed development will include 20% of dedicated open space in the development, and within that dedicated open space, there'll be 2 parks for the residents of the Village of Hastings to enjoy. We note that we only saw 1 area park on the site plan, so there's to be some discussion on that. Another condition is emphasized in the City of Troy's master plan. The development will focus on non-vehicular transportation. And the last condition offered is that landscape screening will be provided to the R1B properties to the north and east of the proposed development. Site plan is in front of you. It's 25 units. It includes 4 ranch-style detached housing homes. Those are those blue boxes that I've outlined. 2 duplex ranch units, which are total 4 units. Those are the yellow boxes. 7 2-story attached units, which are those 14 units that are outlined in red. And 3 of the existing homes on Livernois will remain. I do want to note that for the most part, the layout is very consistent with what you have previously seen. The most significant change are those area in the red are now duplexes. Before they were 4 and 5 unit housing product. So by removing those number from those red area, they've reduced again the total number of units by 8 from what you previously have seen. Access again remains off Livernois. There is a detention basin in the southeast portion of the site. And there is what we know as 1 centralized outdoor recreation area. It's adjacent to that one of those yellow boxes on the site. One of the issues that came up, and this is really a function of the proposed rezoning to RT, There is a section in the RT zoning that says that any structure has to be at least 50 feet setback from the right-of-way line. We do note that ranch unit number 1, which abuts Livernois, is only 35 feet from the future right-of-way. When we measure setbacks, we measure setbacks from the future right-of-way, not the existing right-of-way. So the future right-of-way actually takes an additional 15 feet, so they're only 35 feet from the right-of-way. Again, this was not an issue that was part of the PUD because this standard does not apply to a PUD. This is a standard that applies to the RT, so it's a new zoning standard that came into place when we reviewed this application. One of the issues that came up in discussion with some of the neighbors concerned was the issue of a bypass lane. On the provided site plan, they have shown a bypass lane that would be located along the west side of Livernois. This was due to the need to create a left-hand turning lane into the development. We want to note that this fits within the existing Livernois right-of-way, so it does not require any acquisition of additional right-of-way. It can fit within what's there now. And however, we note that Livernois is an Oakland County road, and if Oakland County does not require the bypass lane as part of the review, the city would consider removing it and most likely not require the bypass lane. So this is really be a detail that would be reviewed as part of the final engineering plan if this does move forward. We do note that parking complies. There are 25 additional guest spaces on the site. Landscaping complies. We do note that they are providing a screen along the northern property line. This is not required by the ordinance because they're doing single-family attached or adjacent to single-family, but they've added this as an additional condition to the proposed development. We do note that, however, a photometric plan was not provided, and we asked for that in a future submittal. The elevations, these are the detached ranch elevations. There are a 2- and a 3-car option. I'm throwing the 3-car option. It's primarily brick veneer, board and bat siding, and painted wood trim. They've also provided a black and white elevation of the 2-story attached product. Again, similar materials, brick veneer, board and bat satin, and painted wood trim. We do note some deficiencies with the elevations. We did not receive an elevation for the 1-story duplex. We did not receive colored elevations for that 2-story attached I just showed. And we did not receive any 3D modeling of the site to show it in context of the surrounding area. There are 5 conditional rezoning standards that the Planning Commission should consider. The first is that the conditions, proposed development, and/or use of the land are designed and proposed to advance public health, safety, and welfare purposes. 2, the conditions in proposed development and proposed use are not in material conflict with the master plan. 3, the conditions, proposed development, and/or proposed use are in accordance with all the terms and provisions of the zoning district in which the land is intended to be rezoned. 4, the proposed development can be served by public facilities and services. And lastly, the conditions, proposed development, and proposed use shall ensure compatibility with adjacent uses of land. So these are the standards the Planning Commission should consider when they talk about the application. Again, the 3 site plan standards that we have in every application. So in summary, we recommend the Planning Commission hold a public hearing, consider public comment, and deliberate on the following: compliance with the master plan, compliance with conditional rezoning standards, compliance with site plan standards, and evaluate the proposed architecture in accordance with the site plan review standards. We do note that if the Planning Commission does recommend approval of the conditional rezoning and preliminary site plan, we suggest the applicant provide a photometric plan, move Ranch 1 to 50 feet from Livernois or seek a variance, and thirdly, provide a color rendering in 3D models. Thank you.
I have a couple questions. Go ahead, Mr. Chair. All right, 2. Okay, so 1 is when you say seek a variance, is that through the Zoning Board of Appeals or is that with us?
That'd be through the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay. And number 2, and I don't know if it's a question for Ms. Dufresne or not, but can we talk really quick about conditional rezoning? I always remember something like we can't ask the applicant to change anything.
Correct. This is not a negotiation. He's offered certain conditions, and it's, is this board willing to accept, make a recommendation to City Council whether or not they accept those conditions. Since you've given me the floor, I do want to say publicly, I was very vocal about telling Mr. Abathera and this board that I didn't think the PUD process was an appropriate use of the zoning tools available. I do think that the conditional rezoning zoning tool is a very appropriate way to proceed. I'm not taking a position on the project. As you know, I don't. That's not my role. But in terms of the process that Mr. Ebethera has chosen to use, I think it's much more appropriate than the PUD process.
Okay.
Because I was vocal about it the other way. I felt like
Yeah.
I had to say, I would,
Okay, thank you. I mean, that helps. So back to my question. So we're not negotiating, but in our deliberation, if there's something that we don't like, we just say we don't like it, and then it would be up to the applicant to make a change and come back and offer a different...
Re-offer whatever you're suggesting.
But we can ask questions about some of the conditions.
You can absolutely ask questions. You can ask for clarification. You can discuss the application in terms of the compatibility with the master plan. I mean, you can have discussion about aspects of the zoning ordinance and whether or not the conditions that the applicant is offering comply with those. But at the end of the day, the conditions that are being offered are not a negotiation.
Okay.
Mr. Ebethera, if he wanted to, could come back and modify those based on comments, but we can't say, well, you'll get your approval if you come back with these.
Right, okay.
That's the gray area.
So we all got that. Mr. Savedon.
The ordinance authorizes the applicant to offer conditions at any time during the process.
Right.
Okay, that
They
makes
can
sense
even
too.
be offered after this body makes a recommendation. If he gets in front of city council, he can modify those conditions at that point too.
Okay. Mr. Tagle, you had,
It was a question about a dimensional variance would have to go through ZBA. I just wanted clarification.
okay, same question. Okay, yeah, Mr. Fox.
Just to touch base on the bypass lane, you mentioned that there's discussion over whether or not to include it. Do you mind just like brief summary why we would want it versus why we wouldn't?
Do we ask Mr. Deering to step up?
Great question for Mr.
Yeah.
Yeah, why does,
Please and thank
Mr.
you.
Deering's here, why don't you come up and...
pay tonight, right?
Yeah, please and thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Deering. I'm a senior technical leader for traffic engineering services for OHM Advisors. Okay. There had been a couple Michigan Supreme Court rulings that limited what county road commissions were allowed to require of developers. And from those Supreme Court rulings, Oakland County, as well as the others, road commissions, developed their standards for things like passing lanes or center left lanes. And the idea is you have to meet certain thresholds before the road commission can impose the need to make improvements. So that's like the floor when the road commission is acting in terms of issuing a access permit. On the other hand, those rulings do not apply to the city. You're under a different set of circumstances. And if within your development requirements would be the requirement to provide a safe movement for left-turning vehicles by either a center left lane or a passing lane, that's independent of what the road commission do. And in a previous life, I was the traffic engineer for Rochester Hills for over a decade. And I would have frank discussions with the road commission where I understood that it weren't allowed to ask for things, but things that they would like to have. And I always got them for them, because Rochester Hills zoning and planning requirements were very similar to Troy. So within the context of this particular road, it is under the jurisdiction of the road commission. But if the city wanted to make an imposition for a passing lane, the road commission will not say no. Just that simple. And it's well recognized that isolating left turns from through movements always results in a safer road system. It's just that the road commission's hands are tied to a certain extent in terms of when they can insist upon it. That's all.
So would it be your recommendation that at this location, there would be either passing lane or a center lane?
Yes, that would be my recommendation to the city.
And that's a city thing, or the applicant has to do that? I mean, I know we can't ask them to do that, but...
So the city has a development standard that requires it in all situations, essentially. So Again, it's a road commission road. So, I mean, it's probably a question more appropriately asked of the city engineer, and that'll be vetted during the final site plan approval process.
Yes, Mr. Tagle.
Could you clarify for us, are we talking about a center left turn lane, a deceleration lane, and/or a bypass lane? What differentiates the bypass lane and the decel lane?
Well, a decel lane would primarily be used for, in this context, northbound turns right into.
That's what I'm seeing on the drawing. I'm seeing a decel lane.
Correct.
Are we also considering a left turn lane? So we're talking about a left turn lane, a through lane, and a decel lane?
We're talking about a means of isolating southbound left turns into the project, and that can be done either with a center lane for left turns or a passing lane.
Where? Where's the passing lane?
It would be on the west side of this road, opposite their entrance.
So is that an option, a center left turn lane or a passing lane?
Yes. And in terms of determining which option makes the most sense, you look at things like, are there utility poles in the way? Does the road have curb and gutter versus shoulder and ditch lines? How easy it is to, if it is a ditch line, move the ditch lines, re-culvert, whatever happens.
Is there an access drive on the west side going into, is there an access drive going into the property on the west side into that strip center or shopping center? I think there is off of,
There might be.
yeah, which I guess would also be a consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And it's just a design choice in terms of what makes easiest to design, easiest to build, lowest cost. Either way, the function is the same. You get the left turn traffic out of the way of the through movements so that you have a reasonable place for those people waiting to turn left. Don't have to worry about backing cars up and possibly being rear-ended.
Right, thank you.
These are questions for Mr. Deering.
Well, so I have a question regarding, I just want to clarify. So the existence of this bypass lane, like this whole issue, is completely separate from the conditions? This is like a city engineering requirement, and the conditions are a separate thing that's been offered by the applicant? I want to clarify that those are two separate discussions.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, this is not a condition that Mr. Abethera is offering.
Okay. So, all right. Thank you.
Right, and they're going to say, so go ahead.
It's an offsite improvement, so it's an improvement that would potentially be required as part of this development, but this is not within the purview of the planning commission.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. That's very good clarification. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, all right. Go ahead, Ms. Malala Holly.
Mr. Deering, a question for you. So the suggestion of a left turn lane into this proposed project, how far would that be sitting in relation to the intersection itself? Because there's a left turn there at the intersection to get people moving onto East Square Lake, sorry.
That is all part of the design process, and I can't answer the question directly because I haven't looked at the topographic information and other things like that would go into this. But that will be one of the considerations that would determine whether it would make more sense to have a passing lane versus developing a center lane for left turns. And again, without looking at the topography and the relative distances involved, I just don't know what is the best answer between those two alternatives.
Yep. Because the intersection is pretty close to where this proposed entrance is being suggested. And there is a bypass lane down the road for near Martel. So I just wanted to know how you're thinking, so. Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions for Mr. Deering? Okay. Thank you. At this point, we'll, oh, go ahead, Mr.
Can I ask
Lambert. Yeah, of course.
Question for Mr. Carlisle, the indicating here for the EVA that attaches, goes off at Square Lake, you mentioned in your report that there will be a sign that says EVA, no vehicular traffic. Is it standard for the city to also require bollards in there, so that breakaway bollards?
Yes, it'll have some sort of physical barriers to stop, stop people from going in there. And obviously, the fire department will have some sort of access through that. The signage actually came out of the discussion for the previous application. There was the planning commission, I believe, I remember correctly, really pushed for signage saying something about EV-only traffic. So yes, there'll be signage, plus there will be some physical barrier that would. And again, that's really up to the fire department in terms of what they feel comfortable with in terms of access.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Yep, Mr. Hudson.
Question for either Ben or Brent. When I first opened an email, probably a week or two ago, on this project, there were two, I believe, site plans. One of the site plans showed a stub road on the northern part of the plan, next to two illustrations of two lots with a note in there, stub to be extended in these two lots. I think there's representation that the applicant tonight owned those lots. Is that still the case?
I think I don't know exactly what you're referencing. My assumption is what you're referencing is right here.
It's not on this plan. It was on a prior plan. There were two of them in the email.
Okay.
I believe what you're referring to was an email from a resident who asked that we share his email with the planning commission. So I did that at his request.
Yes, that is correct, but
Yeah,
I
so-
assumed it was drawn by the applicant and submitted to the planning commission for consideration.
No, I believe that was drawn by the person who sent the email.
Oh.
But so I looked at, when I sent the email, I looked at the ownership of our internal GIS system, Geographic Information System, and it indicated that Mr. Abathur did not own the parcel, but he is here this evening and he can address your question.
No, I'll take a representation, and it was not used. I wasn't sure of the author. I thought it was a planning commission office, but
It's always possible that the GIS indicates that it's owned by, someone, but there's a contractual offer on the property that isn't reflected in GIS or what have you. But Mr. Abathur is here this evening and he can answer that question.
no, I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Any other questions for the building department before we ask the applicant up? Okay. Go ahead and come on up, Mr. Abathura.
Good evening, and thank you for having me today. Obviously, I'm back again with another project here. If you notice, I've gone from 33 to 25 units this time. I got rid of any chances that there's more density than's allowed on the property. I have the density that matches single-family homes and the PUD, or excuse me, the neighborhood node. So I'm back here with no more density, which means no more traffic. So I think I took care of any issues that we've had with those problems of density and traffic. As you know, I'm getting rid of the three-story units and turning them into two-story units, nothing being higher than 28 feet, ranch units along the existing homes, saving the 3 old homes. I do what I always do. I listen to what everybody wants, and I'm doing it. Probably could have listened to Mr. Lambert, Mr. Hudson, when they said they didn't feel it was a PUD, and they were correct. But we're here with conditional rezoning now, and to answer the first 3 things that are missing is everything is pretty much the same from the PUD, but a few things missed out of it. I have, if you don't mind, I can pass out the elevations that were in for the duplexes.
Yeah,
Drop
that'd be
those up.
great. Thank you. Okay.
Those somehow didn't get into the packet. Photometric plan, totally missed it, but it's the same as the existing PUD photometric plan. Is all we did is reduce the inside units of all the two-story buildings.
Just so they can all get them.
They're different?
And the 35-foot side yard setback will not be going to a zoning board. That will be reduced, that'll be opened up to 50-foot.
Okay.
So that was just an error from the engineer that went from the wrong right-of-way line. So that will be 50 feet. There's no need to go to anything else. I think I've kind of hit everything we have. We were approved at this board with 33 units, and now we're down to 25. Same layout, just less units, less density, less traffic. If I could answer any questions you have right now, it'd be great.
Yeah. Really quick, on one of the conditions it said we're going to save the 3 homes. You mean preserve, right?
Preserve,
Okay.
yes.
And then the garbage, I remember from the PUD, the garbage was going to be taken up to certain spots.
Same thing again.
Same thing again, okay. Could you answer the question about the, we see one centralized recreation area, but it makes reference somewhere along the lines of 2 parks.
Should be in the same 2 spots as it was before. It should be a park right here where it was before, and then a park in between the units over here.
Oh, okay.
So
That's not considered a courtyard?
a courtyard, park, butterfly area in there, all that same area that was before is in the same spot.
Okay. And could you give me an idea on the grassy area on the east side?
So-
Yeah. How many feet is that, width-wise?
I think it's 35 feet. If you remember, that used to be two
Yeah, no, I do
two
remember.
duplexes.
I do remember.
So we got rid of it, made a green space. And that was how I got rid of 8 units. I got rid of 4 there, made all these 4 or 5 unit buildings down to 2 2-unit buildings. So there's no more big boxes. They're all duplexes or smaller.
Okay, and then heading down, using that EVA, is there going to be, is that going to be a paved sidewalk for kids to use for school and bikes?
Absolutely. It's going to be, I think it has to be 8 or 10 feet wide,
Okay, right, okay.
whatever the standards are.
Okay. Anyone have questions? Ms. Malala Holly?
So thank you for coming back in front of us, and also the plan, of course, as you said, pretty similar to what you had before. So just for clarification purpose, I'm familiar with the butterfly garden that you had in the earlier plan, but I was under the impression that the other green space that you are referring to is where you took off the building, the units, because the courtyard space is a courtyard space, but
Yeah.
not the common green spaces are those. And you still intend to keep those ideas that you had about, was it a pickleball court?
No, we got rid of the pickleball court because of too many
Right.
complaints about the pickleball court.
Okay,
So
so
there's
it's,
going to be a sports court, but now it's just going to be an open area there,
okay.
park area that way.
Okay, have you considered like a dog park area,
You know, there's a great dog park just a couple miles down the road. That's
which is true, yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, okay. Okay, got it, thank you.
Mr. Lambert?
When some of your neighbors saw some of the stub streets on the east side, they expressed concerns about what's he going to do now to our neighbor, or to our area. And obviously, if you own that property, you can develop it following city standards. But another concern that was expressed was Telford. Do you have plans eventually to have Telford connect out to Square Lake, or is that something that you probably wouldn't do?
I do not own the property that abuts Telford. If you remember, these 2 little road stub streets right here were made for deliveries. When my first time, 2 years ago, someone know how the prime trucks were going to turn around, because we're worried about how the deliveries, and those are fire truck and delivery turnarounds. There's 60 feet that you have to have from the edge to the center of the road in order to have a turnaround. So the truck can drive down, back up, pull back out. So we did that in 3 locations. So those aren't stub streets, they're turnarounds that was requested by residents worried about how they're going to turn around, and the board asked for those. So those were put in.
Thank you.
Now, one last thing, if people are worried about being developed over here is, I'm only concerned with what I have in front of me today. If anything wants to get developed over there, it's going to have to start right from the beginning, come to this board, meet with the residents, and go to the next board. I'm only talking about what's in front of us today. I
Do
can't.
you own those lots to
I
the
do
east?
not.
You do not? Okay. I forget, were the pedestrian crossings in there that we had talked about in previous versions? Is there a better
Yes.
picture?
There are three, if I remember correctly.
The pedestrian crossings would be in the same spots here and across here, and I think there's one that goes across this way.
Okay. Would you consider, I don't know, anything in that 1 acre space, well, I wrote down, is it 1 acre? I don't know, how big is that
I
area?
don't think it's a 1 acre. It's probably a third of an acre.
Oh, really?
My thoughts were berming it and planting trees on it, so it's a block, so people don't see one way or the other. I don't know what's going to develop on the other side, and it just blocks what we have there.
Okay, okay. I was thinking in terms of putting some outdoor furniture, like a gazebo, so maybe if somebody in the, who lives there wanted to have a party and they had an outdoor space, but I don't know. I was just curious about that space. Okay. Price point. Can you give me a price point of some of these developments?
Probably 400 to 600.
Okay.
But, you know, the way things keep going up, I can't, you know, every year I keep coming back here. They started at 250 when I first started this, and I can't control the price.
Anyone have questions? Mr. Tagle?
Good evening.
Good evening.
You know, looking at the street configurations that you have here, it really highlights the sides of all of your buildings. And the sides of your buildings are fairly large and stark. And I was wondering if you could do something to soften the massiveness of those end conditions, because when you pull in off of,
Liverman.
thank you, you see the side of a building, you come down, in the first street to the south, you see the side. As you turn again east, you're seeing the sides of the duplexes, and it's just like, this is a lot different than if you're just driving down a street, because you're really not going to see the sides as much. So I guess I'd really like you to consider doing something to tone down just that starkness and the massiveness of those ends of those buildings. It could be a change in the roof line, could be maybe a change in materials, but just
Box
something
outs,
to
anything.
soften it up.
Could I ask Brent a question?
Brent?
Yeah. Would that be part of the conditional rezoning, that I soften the sides of the buildings? That's something I can present after this meeting, before the meeting, during the meeting?
So you can take comments from, correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, you can listen to comments provided by board members, residents, and you can voluntarily offer conditions
Okay.
based on that.
All right. So yes, we will definitely, because one thing we don't want to have is just a blah-looking building there. And that's a very good point that we didn't think about the last time we were here. But we want to make these buildings look top-notch, so that because they look blah, they're not going to sell.
Appreciate it, thank you.
So,
Yeah, Ms. Malala,
Or
hi.
clarification. I saw water filtration beds. I didn't see that in the PUD, or maybe I missed it. What is that? For somebody who's not familiar with it.
we had it in the PUD because there was a condition on it. We do not have it in these here.
I
It
see.
can be put back in.
Did I see it in the rendering then?
Well, if it's in the rendering, it'll be back in.
I thought I saw it too.
Yeah, I saw 3 of
Okay.
them. To be
Can I-
correct, let me pull up to that page, because I don't want to catch myself, say something, and, which is not correct.
Well, that's why I don't want to say anything that's wrong either. But I do know we had one over here, and that's still there, that'll be in. And I think there was one
Yeah,
over
that's
this way.
where I remembered seeing
Yeah.
it on this one.
Yeah, there is a color rendering of the,
And everything that's
have
from
to get to that
this road over here and around has never changed from the PUD. You know, everything from this area north has been the same as it's been in PUD. Everything that's changed was this area down here that was heavily,
yeah, so I'm seeing it on page 90 of our packet. It has 1, 2,
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're there.
so I did see the water filtration, so I wasn't sure what that was, or maybe I missed seeing it during the PUD presentation, so I just observed it here,
okay.
which was new to me, but
If I remember right, Mr. Fox was pretty heavy on wanting water filtration systems, and then we put them in there, which they're still in there then.
So they're part of the application.
They're part of the applications.
All right, good catch. Anyone else have questions for the applicant? Because it is a public hearing, we're going to open it up. All right, thank you very much for being here. Okay, we are going to open the public hearing, so if you're here to speak on this project, please make your way to the podium. And remember to sign in, please.
While Mr. Williams is going to sign in, we got 2 emails that we received after the packets went out. One was from Ann Coleman, and one was from John Malott, and they're both in front of you this evening.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody. There's a lot to like about this new proposal. There really is. I wish this was, could have been started a few years ago. We could have started at this point. Ms. Mulholly and Mr. Hudson, no 3 stories. Love it. I mean, absolutely love there's no 3 stories. 27% reduction in the number of units. Fantastic. Perimeter only having 1-story ranches is excellent. There's no more Army barracks in the middle. The detention pond looks fantastic. But now we're trying to get the full support from the community, and I want to get a few things addressed. First, I want to give a quick thank you to Brent. You've been very responsive, and you've been really great to work with. Thank you. I hope everyone had a chance to read my email, Mr. Hudson. I think you mentioned it. That was for me. I just want to summarize, because what was brought up and what I did bring up absolutely ties into the bigger picture and the bigger future development of what's going on here. Our Telford Ridge HOA was told for the past several years in every single meeting with Gary that he owns those 2 abutting properties to the east or has an agreement to purchase them. That is our subdivision's biggest fear, is connecting to a new development and directly connecting to Square Lake Road. When you look at the new proposal, there's 2 dead ends. I know they're dead ends, but they're absolutely in place to connect to the next phase of this development. This is what we were told in our HOA meetings. We're concerned that he's not being transparent with us or the planning commissioners. I do believe Gary has told the commissioners in the community that those properties are his, and I'm thankful it's kind of getting addressed here. I still like to know if there's some agreement in place, because there's 2 open lots, and we were told he owns them or has an agreement to buy them. It would go a long way. Oh, the handouts, Mr. Hudson, yes, this is what we were given in our HOA meetings. That is what I sent along. So it shows future development right here. It does say that. It would go a long way towards neighborhood trust and support if Gary could acknowledge tonight that he will not try to rezone from R1B or try to attach a new development to the Telford Ridge subdivision if and when he closes on those 2 abutting properties. If you want us to support this proposal, we're requesting that you acknowledge this tonight in good faith, that you will not change the zoning and will not attempt to connect to our subdivision or new development in the future. If we can get this addressed, along with a couple of the concerns you're going to hear tonight from our community, we really want to try to wish Gary the best of luck, and we'll do our best to support him at the city council meeting. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak?
Hi, I'm Ann, 6091 Livernois. It doesn't get any easier. My heart just beats so fast talking in front of the group. My concern about this project is not about the development itself. It's about what the site plans showed on the planning portal with the left-hand turn lane for southbound, passing lane for southbound traffic, turning left, and then the right-hand turn lane going into the sub, heading north. I ask, to me, this is on the City of Troy and City of Troy's engineering to make sure that this road developed, these bypass lanes are safe, because what's going to happen, if you go down there and you look, you're going to see it goes from 2 lanes to 4 lanes back to 2 lanes. And my concern is that southbound traffic is going to perceive passing on the right-hand side as safe. When that passing lane on the west side, southbound, ends, there's still 2 more driveways. So people will have the perception that it's safe to pass and maintain speed when you have people turning left into my house and into the Ye Old Flower Barn, the old Ye Old Flower Barn. So there is a serious traffic engineering consideration, and I would ask, I don't know if you guys can say that, but please, if you're going to recommend this, ask engineering to put a full research on how to make that road safe. Even considering 25 mile an hour, like reducing speed to 25 mile an hour would significantly make it safer. The other thing is that left-hand lane, that bypass lane heading southbound, takes up the property fronts of 6 houses. And it baffles me. I just don't understand how come the entrance to this couldn't be taken off of Square Lake, where you have, if there's a right-hand turn lane to get in there added, you're only impacting 2 properties, or 1 to 2, 1 really, where the house is set way back. To have this bypass lane on southbound Livernois on the west side, you're taking away the property fronts of 6 to 11 feet. I called engineering, we talked, 6 to 11 feet of property where houses are set really close to the road. So with this happening, please, please, please make the recommendation that we figure out something with the road, making the road fully wider so that there's no bypassing lanes, but that it's straight through, reducing to 25 mile an hour, doing something for safety. The last thing, 4 seconds, water. Engineering needs to understand that the water runs off my property onto Livernois Road. Drive past there right now, you'll see the ditch is full to maximum. So if any road is put up there, you're going to be needing to put in culverts. And yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Think you got it. Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm Nanette Gerhardt. I live at 6197 Livernois. My house is on the corner of Livernois and Aspinwall. The bypass is so dangerous. There's mailboxes on that side of the street, well, on both sides of the street, actually. But as it is, I don't even walk to get my mail. I use a car and wait for the traffic going north. I'm on the wrong side of the street to get my mail, and been doing that for years because it's so dangerous to walk on Livernois. I've almost gotten hit several times, especially especially when it's snowing in the winter. That's how bad it is. So for now, you're going to take away more of our, not really our property, but the city's property, and there's got to be a barrier or something has to be done if you're going to do that. I totally support having the entrance to this off of Square Lake that would take care of that. The traffic is so bad on Livernois. People don't stop for the school buses. Every day I'm hearing the school bus driver honking her horn because somebody's driving right past. I don't know how you could miss these school buses, but they are. I'm wondering if, and I'm probably off base here, but I'm going to say it, was there ever a consideration just to turn this into some green space and use state funding to support it? I don't know, but it should have been considered instead of adding more traffic to this area. I also have questions about the 3 older homes. Is there, if those are going to be, if you say they're going to be preserved, are they going to be sold? Are they going to be updated? Are they going to be torn down eventually? Is there a way to preserve them and turn them into historical homes and so that they don't get torn down and then somebody puts up a high-rise or whatever there? I wish, I agree with Jeff that I wish this would have gotten started or we would have gotten involved a lot sooner so we could have made a lot of changes and give some more input. But I also wish that the developer would have come to more of the residents on both sides of Livernois and gotten our input on this.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Hi.
Oops.
Okay. Hello, my name is Lisa Williams. I live at 159 Telford. I appreciate that you're taking the time to listen to what we have to say regarding the new proposal from R1B to now RT. Mr. Faison, you questioned that. You got it right, right? There is another way, and we're here now listening to RT. The overall design that the developer is proposing is not really changed, but the density has been greatly reduced, and that's great progress. I would like to make some suggestions. They went over traffic, so I'm going to skip that, but 75, page 75 on the agenda, landscaping. If you could get a clearer indication of how this is going to affect the resident on 56 Telford, just what the screening is going to look like, because they have a road, they have a park, and they have a duplex, ranches all in their area. So a little clearer indication on that. And then page 78 of the agenda, the floor plan and elevation suggests that items that need to be addressed are color renderings and architecture. I'm not sure making all the ranches uniform color and design really fit with the area. Any possibility of mixing that up, mixing the housing styles a bit. Mr. Tagle, I think his expertise might be great in this. How to add touches to the ranches that will capture the same feel of the older homes that are being kept. And another point, there's no rendering of the attached ranches, what those will look like. And then page 79, the site plan review standards, which stresses the use of high-quality design, construction, and detailing. And has been mentioned, I feel like there needs to be some rethinking of the aesthetics of the buildings themselves for me to be in favor of this project. So I think
Thank you.
Excuse me, here, you can have my, this was provided us tonight. It's the attached, as mentioned.
Hi, everyone. My name's John Malat. I live at 72 Telford Court, kind of across from the little corner of the development there. First of all, thanks, everyone, for your service. I know it's a big ask to come up here and spend late nights, week in and week out. And thank you, Gary, for your improvements as well. I think it's a step in the right direction. I do think that there's room for a few improvements. First of all, the yellow
duplexes that back up to two of the homes in Telford. I kind of think that's a big ask to have people that live in an R1B area right now, all of a sudden now back up to duplexes. And I really don't understand why those can't be single detached ranches. I think, if you took those 4 out, you could probably fit 3 in there, and for the life of me, can't figure out how you couldn't get close to the same amount of money for the same footprint. The second thing that I have as a concern is, and I think Lisa just brought it up as well, is the landscaping around the Telford homes there, especially that little corner inlet around 56 Telford and at the end of the street that's an entrance into the subdivision. It's not really clear in the description. It talks a little bit about the heights and so forth in some of the plans. But, I think we're at Telford, we're sort of expecting mature, no light through kind of barrier, right? And I think that if we could go a little bit long or a little bit better in the description of that, would be helpful. And then next, the older homes that Gary's going to preserve. I'm not really sure, what he means by preserve, because to me, I look at those and they need some improvement. There's one of them, I believe, that nobody's been in for a while. So I think they need some restoration. I don't know, maybe he's been waiting to find out what happens here to determine what happens with those homes. But I think they need some TLC. And then lastly, I think Mr. Tagle brought it up, the construction materials and kind of the types and the quality and the elevations. That was a little bit of a, concern that I had as well. Actually, one other thing, and that's the entrance off of Square Lake. I'm still not clear on why the entrance couldn't come off of Square Lake. So that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I thought I'm going to add my 2 cents.
Sure.
Mary Reddig, I live on 6860 West Away. And I've been to a couple of these meetings and figured Gary was going to build something and a lot of adjustments. I know he spent a lot of money with all these revisions and all that jazz. But just as that gentleman just said, I do not understand why there can't be an access off of Square Lake also. I'm fearful of driving on Livernois now if this is going to happen, because it's bad now when you go, and I just can't imagine what's going to be added, even though there's less people and less traffic. But I really, really feel that needs to be really looked at. And with that whole conversation about road commission, I guess I just want to understand too that you guys can approve this, and I know I can't get an answer, but then it has to go to road commission as well too? Is that, I guess, how I understood it to be said? So in any event, the other comment Mr. Tagle mentioned, try to make them look a little nicer, because when somebody's going to be spending $400,000 to $600,000 probably for one of these ranch units, this is what I understand they're going to be looking at, and that's kind of ugly. So hopefully that can be fixed up, because it'd be a hard sell. The other thought on the access with Square Lakeway Road too is that those first 3 ranches up there, all the traffic for this whole complex is going to be going by those houses. And I can't imagine those 2 units there would be a hard sell. It'd be easier to sell if there were 2 access points into this complex. Again, my opinion, I've been a realtor for about 28 years, moved to this area 4 years ago, and this has been on my mind since it came to my attention. It's been very disappointing that, more building, but I know it's going to happen. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hi again. I do agree what everyone's saying about the character of the units. I mean, whatever you build in Troy, somebody's going to buy it. But I think it's lacking. There's a lot of, what I see, vinyl siding. The back of it honestly looks like a church or some type of school building. So if there was some type of character in the back, the dormers, something that just makes it look like the building is separated instead of all one building. More emphasis maybe on a backyard, fences, or, you know, like a little fence for privacy. Because I noticed that the ones by Pepe's, people try to make a little gate in their little front yard for their dogs, you know. So, I mean, maybe more provisions, make it cuter back there. Maybe different colored garages, but I do appreciate the fact that he brought it back, the number of units. Personally, I love architecture, and I'm really going to be sad that see that barn go, because I can't imagine how old that little red barn is. I wish there was some way to salvage that, make it used somehow. I can't imagine what the inside of the barn with the beams and all of that. It's got to be awesome. I was reading about bus transportation on this one site that gives a lot of guidelines. One of them is lighting at the entrance where the kids are to be picked up. I don't see any lighting or street lights over there, and that light, there's really no lighting across the street. The only lighting is at the intersection. Somebody was talking about the road. I actually have seen people, when a bus is stopped on Livernois right at the corner, they go around it and they use the center turn lane to speed down there. So I'm very curious in the safety of the bus stops and whether or not it should be at an EVA, because if there's a bunch of kids in an emergency and they come in there, can you even use an EVA for a bus stop? That's what I was trying to research, if you can do that. You know, they said lighting 12 feet away from the road, you know, pick places that are safe. I don't know. It's this site that was like super long. But anyways, that's all I have to say. Buses, more character. That's it.
Thank you.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Deborah Lazecki, Save Troy Corners. I'll do that in a minute. The master plan gave us vision. Now we need planning. Placemaking capitalizes on local community assets, inspiration, and potential with the intention of creating public spaces that improve urban vitality and promotes people's health, happiness, and well-being. Keeping our intention to our corner in mind, I am asking to please consider my request. Grant Gary road access off the Square Lake. There's a 30-foot access, 24-foot blacktop. If you can't do it, then can you at least grant them a one-way road in? This will lessen the burden of full access of subdivision onto Livernois. No southbound turn lane with respect to west side Livernois neighbors' lack of their front yard space and their well-being. Engineering states plans show widening of the west side of Livernois, an additional width of 11 feet of blacktop, an additional 2.5 feet of stone at its widest, and will affect 7 to 8 homes. Yes, this is in a right-of-way easement on these home sites, but their homes are already very close to the road. There is no southbound left turn lane for Telford that has the same number of homes in it. I understand the road hasn't been approved with the city or the county. I'm just asking you to put this in your thinking caps, and also Gary, and help him with this. That's a considerable amount of expense that you could help him with on that road. Lastly, I'm confused as to the the resistance from planning of his 3-story condos within the neighborhood node. While the property right in front of his property fronts Square Lake and is zoned 3-story. With that said, Gary has come with years' worth of difference of temps. This is a greatly reduced community. It is low impact with a height max of 28 feet. I do have a concern of the rezoning to RT. I know it is conditional, but there are, RT zoning allows a lot of high-impact uses within the zoning change. I would hope this conditional RT would be considered in the future with other developments. Please, can we increase more brick interest? A high demand for ranches in this area is going to bring you a high price tag, Gary. So we're looking for high-end features that will be looked for from the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who wants to speak on this? All right, seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission for let's get a resolution on the table so we can start discussing. Oh, wait, I do have a question about this. So we can't postpone because postponing would be as if we were telling him to do something and come back.
So I was actually thinking about that thing, and a couple people brought up something that I frankly hadn't thought of. So I have not seen the conditional rezoning agreement that Gary would propose. And someone two people I think, raised very good questions about what does he mean by preserve?
Yeah.
So I think a reason for postponing would be to give the applicant an opportunity to sort of clarify the conditions specifically with respect to what does he mean by preserve. I think that was an excellent point. And then with respect to the design, these Mr. Ebethera suggested he would be willing to modify his elevations. Well, let's get that in writing. Let's see that. So I think those are two reasons that you could postpone. If that was something that this body wanted to do.
Okay.
But I agree 100%. We need to flesh out what is meant by preserve, and that would have to be in the conditional rezoning agreement, the written agreement itself.
So is it normal to be at this stage? I know we're the recommending body, but for us to be, let's say we were to approve it tonight without you actually seeing the agreement. That's
My preference would be to see it ahead of time, but because this is just a recommending body and there could be conditions that come out of that could be revised, it doesn't have to really be in final form until it goes to City Council.
Okay. So you still would like for us to try to get a resolution on the table before we discuss?
You control the meeting, Madam
Yeah,
Chair.
yeah,
That is my
okay.
preference, but if you feel this needs a different, being fleshed out differently,
Does anyone want to make a resolution, but so we can we'll call you up because I'm sure we're going to have more questions for you. Does anyone have a resolution they'd like to make, or do you feel like we need to discuss?
I have a question for
Go ahead,
city
go
staff,
ahead.
sorry. There's been some conversation about the 2 lots to the east. I guess I don't want us to end up in a situation, like, are we allowed to even consider, like, properties that are not a part of the, I guess my question is, whether or not the applicant owns it, it sounds like our records don't officially show any ownership on the applicant of those 2 lots to the east. But is that even something that we're able to kind of go over and consider with this type of thing? I guess would be my question.
go ahead. The answer, no. I'm just not sure why we would be considering something outside of the purview of the 4 corners of what we're considering tonight.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Carlisle?
Those sites are also zoned R1B. So my assumption would be if they were developed, they would come back before this board for rezoning.
It would be a whole
Something else,
nother-
and you would have at that time, you would have the right to review that on its own merits.
Okay.
Just to piggyback on that, my guess is if it were to come back as our T zoning, any applicant who has paid attention at all with what's going on is going to consider voluntarily offering conditions and going through the conditional rezoning process, which involves notification to the neighbors, planning commission public hearing, city council public hearing. So it's going to, any applicant who wants any degree of success is going to listen to the concerns of the neighbors and is going to come forward with something that is palatable to this board as well as the neighbors. So, I mean, I think that's a layer of protection. And I heard Mr. Abathira indicate he doesn't own the property. So, I mean, we're considering this application before us this evening. We're not considering an application for something he does not own.
Thank you. Yeah, oh, okay. I did have, the question that kept coming up, I mean, I feel like we talked about it years ago, but it's come up a lot tonight about the Square Lake access. Is my memory that the road, he doesn't own a wide enough part on Square Lake, and that's why it's not coming off Square Lake? Is that the?
Brief history. So the property was split and approved, I'm going to guess, 25 to 30 years ago, okay? And at the time, it was determined that there was enough access to split that parcel off. I don't know whether the people that approved the split envisioned that there'd be a 14-unit, I think it was 14-unit, condo development or not. Regardless, the person who acquired the property, Mr. Abathira, proposed a 14-unit, 3-story townhome. It was approved, and we got some, people on the Planning Commission will remember, there was some criticism that we approved it with only a 30-foot access. I don't know if anyone, I'm seeing Mr. Lambert remembers that. It's not ideal to have 30-foot access. It doesn't afford a 28-foot wide paved street plus a sidewalk. Now there'd have to be some thought put towards how to accommodate that. Mr. Abathira was, after that approval, was able to acquire additional property and have the access off of Livernois, where there's significantly more room, and he's able to design a road that meets our standards, and design access that meets our standards and provides sidewalks. This is the application before us this evening. So the quick answer is, why are we not considering Square Lake? This is the application that we're considering. Now, we did accommodate improved emergency vehicle access through the proposed EVA, but this is what's proposed. We have a traffic study from our traffic expert who's sitting here this evening, who's given us the daily trips per day, the AM and PM peak, and indicated that it's not a significant number of trips per day. And we've heard the concerns of the residents regarding a passing lane, a turning lane, et cetera. The city engineer is well aware of the concerns. The traffic expert who assists us in reviewing plans is sitting here this evening. He's aware of the issues. We heard Ann mention her concern about drainage. We're paying attention. We know all the concerns. And if this moves forward by getting approved by preliminary site plan and conditionally rezoned by city council, it would trigger the applicant's engineer submitting engineering drawings. And at that point, we will roll up our sleeves and we'll review those drawings to make sure that whatever is proposed is in the best interest of health, safety, and welfare.
That's the short answer.
That's the short answer.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Fox.
So I guess knowing that the applicant will have time to revise conditions before it ends up going before city council, and also knowing that when it comes to the bypass lane, that's not in the purview of the planning commission, I guess in order to start the conversation officially, I'd like to offer a motion. Resolve that Planning Commission hereby recommends to the City Council that the NN and R1B to RT conditional rezoning request as per section 16.04 of the City of Troy zoning ordinance located on the east side of Livernois and north of Square Lake, PIN 88-20-03-088-023-024-025 and 88-20-03-351-004 within section 3 being approximately 5 acres inside be granted subject to the following conditions. The request complies with the master plan. The rezoning would permit greater flexibility in use and development of the property. The conditions offered by the applicant reasonably protect the adjacent properties. The rezoning would be compatible with surrounding zoning and land use. The site can be adequately served with municipal water and sewer. Be it further resolved that the Planning Commission recommends the following site plan design considerations: the provision of a completed photometric plan, sounds like moving of Ranch 1 50 feet is potentially irrelevant based on what the applicant said. Provide color renderings of the proposed duplex product. I think that also got addressed by the applicant providing those. So the one thing I have left would be the photometric plan from the original motion as presented in the council packet.
Is there a second?
Well, wait a minute, before we second, we're not mentioning anything about further defining what preserve is?
Oh, yes.
But we can't offer that, you see, that's,
Yeah.
it would be a postpone if you go to modify any of his,
So my thought would be the applicant is listening and can amend before they go to city council. And I would take it that if the applicant did not address it in front of, in that time frame, city council would not look very favorably upon their application, and thus the applicant is incentivized to potentially address that with. It is not a requirement, as we cannot put requirements on.
that's what I'm saying.
But-
It would either be that we suggest that now, and if we suggest that, it has to be postponed, letting him come back. Now, he did, at many months, maybe a year ago, give a really great detailed explanation of how he's going to preserve those. That wasn't included in this packet, though. He was going to do an incredible job.
Yeah, I
He went
remember
into
that.
a lot of detail about it.
Yes. And then my thought with recommending approval would be that he would then be able to include that before it goes to council, because he already has that prepared. But that's just my thought on it. If it doesn't get seconded, it doesn't get passed, then absolutely, we can look at other options.
Is there a second to the motion? So, doesn't pass. Okay. So we're back to, does someone want to make a motion that's different? Go ahead, Mr. Fox.
Okay. Resolved that the Planning Commission hereby recommends to the City Council that the NN and R1B to RT conditional rezoning request as per section 16.04 of the City of Troy zoning ordinance located on the east side of Livernois and north of Square Lake, PIN 88-20-03-301-088, -023-024-025 and 88-20-03-351-004 within section 3 being approximately 5 acres in size be postponed subject to the following clarifications provided by the applicant. Not new conditions, as we cannot request those, but clarification on the offered condition in regards to defining preservation of the 3 existing houses that are existing, as well as the provision of a photometric plan to city planning staff.
And he offered to resubmit some renderings, I think.
Yes, resubmitting color renderings and then providing the written agreement to Ms. Dufresne.
I
A
would
version
like
of,
that, but
the applicant may consider providing the written agreement to Ms. Dufresne as a potential for the postponement. So,
Before I second that, I've seen some really beautifully designed homes that Gary has produced, and these fall flat short of what he's done in the past. And although I can't suggest, I would certainly think he would take it upon himself to look at these designs and reflect back what he's already produced, because these are just so ordinary for considering the Troy buyer that I think he can go back on his own work and just, bring his own work back up to speed on this, because these don't make it in Troy as far as I'm concerned.
And also, when you said clarification on what preserved means, I'm also
definition of
looking for a, preservation. I'm also going to look, as part of the question, is the timeline, is it going to be in perpetuity? Like, I'd like that answer.
Yes, yeah, definition of the timeline, yeah.
Can I wordsmith that?
Yes,
When
please.
Mr. Fox read the motion as it's in the packet, he mentioned recommending to council to postpone, and that's not.
Oh, no, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
That we postpone our decision as opposed to recommending that council postpone, because that would be silly, and we are not a silly board.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Cron. So now now we can freely discuss. Do we feel like there's any questions that we still have for the applicant, or?
Just a clarification that I seek, of the 3 homes that Gary the applicant is looking to preserve, they are all preserved as in, he's renting them out, he owns them, he's selling them? What are the 3 homes there? Because the rest of the property is going to get sold, because that is for selling. But what about the 3 in the front, the historic homes? Are they currently being rented out? Are they owned by him? I guess I need some clarity on that.
And that's what we're asking for, in terms of what he means.
Part
by
of the preservation, part of it, okay.
Does anyone else have any other questions, or are we ready for a vote? Yes, Mr.
I just
Lamb.
wanted to thank Mr. Abathur for coming back with a plan that I think meets the needs of the neighbors much better than the previous plan. And I'm sure, based upon some of the comments from the commission and from the neighbors, that he may consider additional voluntary offerings, either to us or when it comes to city council. So I'm sure he'll be listening and will be reflecting upon that before he comes back to us, so.
I'll second that. If, this is a vastly improved design. I like everything about this whole plan. The only thing that really disturbs me is the look of the buildings.
Pretty big thing. Yeah, go ahead. Come on up, Mr. Abathur. I also want to thank you for coming, but I also want to thank the residents for coming and being persistent, and your feedback over time has helped, and we've gotten to where we have because of your feedback, so we appreciate that as well.
All right, just a couple things is, maybe this is throwing a monkey wrench in it, but the 3 homes that are going to be preserved means they're not going to be demolished if there's a new subdivision. Those 3 homes are not part of this conditional rezoning because they are still zoned R1B. So when you're asking me how I'm going to preserve them, they are a separate out of the whole area that's going to be conditionally rezoned.
See, that's a wrench.
Well, that's a wrench, but they're not part of it, and if you read it,
They're part of the conditions, respectfully, they're part of the conditions that you're offering is to preserve that home, and we need to know what preservation means.
I mean, I can straighten up easy. Preservation means we're not going to just tear them down. They're going to be sitting there. They're going to be 3 individual homes that are not part of the association that's going to be in there because they are standalone houses on standalone lots. If you look at my conditions in there or my site plan, it does not show them as part of the acreage and part of the,
But you show them as a written condition that you've offered is that they will be preserved, and this body wants to
Yeah.
know what that means.
so preserved means, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying to the board, preserved means they're going to be left the way they are. So do you want this written condition to say that they are out of the
But I
conditional
can't have it
rezoning?
we shouldn't have this back and forth like this, but you can't have it both ways. You can't say it's a condition that you're offering to get the rezoning, and
Okay.
then say, but they're not part of the rezoning. So you need to think about, like I said, you can't have it both ways.
Okay. I'll-
Yes, go ahead.
Gary, honestly, it was on the site plan, I reviewed as part of the site plan. And then secondly, I would note that single-family detached can be in the RT zoning district, so you could include them as part of the conditional rezoning, and it wouldn't change the
Okay.
status of those properties.
So we can still call them part of the being the rezone, but they're not being rezoned RT, are they? They're still going to be R1B.
It would be rezoned as RT.
RT.
They'll be
but
zoned
you
as
can have
RT.
single-family as a building and a use in RT zoning, so it wouldn't change anything about them other than they would now be zoned
Okay.
RT.
And the questions, we're not telling you, right? But the questions that I have are, if you're preserving them, what does that mean? Are you renovating them? And then are you putting language in there that would carry on to the next seller, buyer? If you're going to sell it, does the next buyer have to preserve it?
Okay.
Those are questions, that when you come back, if you could give us more information on what you're offering.
Okay. Do I have one more question? I don't know who it's to, but when it comes back, will it be a public meeting again, or will it be a non-public meeting? Because
We held our one public hearing. We don't have to hold another hearing,
Okay.
another public hearing, but the meeting will be open to the public, and I'm sure there will be people watching to see when that next meeting is. So will
Yes.
it be noticed as a public hearing again? No. But will we have another open meeting where the public is invited to come? Yes.
Okay, and I take we'll have soon as.
Let me ask, but the city council will have a public hearing. Yeah, I wanna make
Exactly.
sure.
City council is altogether different. I mean, everything I'm getting here is just to get the city council to have them make their decisions. So,
Yeah.
all right, so I will table it, and Brent will get the next possible meeting to be back after the conditions are there. How long does it take for you to review the conditions? Is it a week, a month, 6
Who are
months?
you working, who is your attorney that you're working with?
Mr. Jacobs.
Mr. Jacobs.
I will have him change it instantly to you.
I think you need to flesh out what the preservation means and make sure that's.
We can change the word to remain. Preservation is probably a word that doesn't, my preservation. might
Jacobs
keep it.
come up with what you want to present.
Yes, but is it, once he gets it to you, is it a 2-week, 4-week, 6-week?
I will do
I
it
mean,
in- I will do it as expeditiously as I can.
Okay.
We have a lot on our plate right now with some other matters that are coming up next month. But
And Brent, how's your schedule looking for being back up there? I mean, I do, because I do have a deadline. If I don't do this project, I have to do the 14 units. Unless you want to grant an extension for me, I think I have a legitimate question to ask is, June 18th is my deadline for my extensions, and nobody wants to extend it, but you guys are capable to extend it. If it's going to take 4 or 5 months to get this, or 2 months because we're busy, and then it goes to city council, takes 3, 4 months again,
I will publicly say, Gary, you will be on an agenda before June 18th. I'm not going to take that long to review the.
no, but I have to have city council too before June 18th, and I have to make sure city council doesn't want to postpone it. That's,
Have Mr. Jacobs get me the agreement. I'll do it as quickly as I can.
okay.
We'll review the information as quickly as we can. We don't even have it yet, so it's hard to.
I understand, but I just want to make sure.
That's a good point, and I think we're all aware of, or the department is aware of it, and we're going to work with you. We're not going to try to,
We're not
Okay.
going to slow play it so that you miss your extension, your
Yeah, yeah.
extension deadline.
Okay,
we
On
all
record,
don't want
but-
that development.
Okay.
So
right.
I think we're good.
and I think just while I'm on record here is, I will not develop the property to the east. If I can get the Telford subdivision to back up this project, I will not develop it to RT, and I will not buy the property. So, just so I have it out here so they know, and that way they can be behind when I go to city council.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions that I know you can't ask me, but you can ask me?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Lambert.
Probably not a question, but just to clarify, so when it comes back to Ms. Dufresne, is your condition number 5 says the 3 single-family residential parcels are to remain R1B, and to save the 3 century-old homes at Front Livernois. These homes will help preserve the historic nature of the historical area of Troy Corner. So is it R1B or is it RT? So that needs to be clarified.
That needs-
That will clarify.
So we had a conversation, Gary and I had a conversation about this a number of weeks ago, and, because it wasn't abundantly clear in the application. And when he was denied for the PUD by city council, we talked about this, and we was talking about approaches and whatnot. And I think I probably, in talking to him, suggested to leave the 3 as R1B, because optically, I mean, we heard a resident this evening saying, she suggested that she didn't want the units to be torn down and replaced with multifamily. Well, if you leave it R1B, it's not, you're protected by the fact that it hasn't been rezoned. It's, all you can do is individual homes. So that was, my thinking was, by leaving it R1B, that's has the effect of helping to preserve those existing homes, or at the very least, not making it so attractive to demolish them and get more density. So that's a conversation that we had, but again, I didn't steer him in that direction, because I can't, request him to do things, but that's kind of what we talked about.
That's going to raise a bunch of questions, though, when it comes back, and let's say it's RT now, because we're going to group it in, and if it gets burned down in a fire accidentally, obviously. I don't know why I said it like that, but anyway, if something happens and now it's an RT, we have to, the wording's going to have to be really tight. Because that's what I'm going to.
Jacobs has a task.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to be worried about. Okay. All right, any other questions for Mr. Abathira?
The last question is, I will do what I can to get Oakland County not to put the passing lane in too. Whatever it takes, I'd be in favor of not doing that either.
Okay, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, because I was not, there was somewhere where it said we won't require it if the road commission doesn't require it, and I'm thinking that it's needed in that area. So I've been told that it's out of our purview, but I hope that engineering really takes a good look at that. All right. Thank you. Okay, I think we have a motion on the floor that needs to be voted on. Are we ready?
Was it seconded?
Yes.
Yeah, it was seconded.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, we'll take the vote.
Okay, Mr. Krant,
Yes.
Mr. Lambert.
Yes.
Ms. Malala Holly.
Yes.
Ms. Parakis.
Yes.
Mr. Tagle.
Yes.
Mr. Faison.
Yes.
Mr. Fox.
Yes.
Mr. Hudson.
To the applicant, before I tell you my vote, we're going to even the odds of approval and denial, so I vote yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, everyone. We're on to public comment for items on the agenda. If anyone has anything to say about anything we've talked about tonight? All right. Seeing none, we're going to move on to Planning Commission comment. And I'm going to start with Mr. Fox.
All good, thank you.
Mr. Hudson?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Faison?
Nothing from me.
Mr. Lambert? Ms. Malala Holly?
Nothing, thanks.
I've said enough, except that, again, there's another Oakland County.
Of course, we got to hear about it.
Planners gathering, so I'll just say this, go to their website and look it up. It's on March 18th.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Tagle?
Nothing for me, thank
Ms.
you.
Dufresne?
So not to extend the meeting longer than it needs to be, however, first I want to say thank you again to you for abiding by getting a motion on the floor so that we can discuss it. But more importantly, I received a decision today in one of the Stockwell lawsuits. It's the one that's in federal district court. It's the one where he's alleged First Amendment retaliation and equal protection disparate treatment based on the fact that he, because of his religion. So it was a split opinion. The First Amendment claim can proceed, and the equal protection claim has been dismissed. So we will proceed with discovery and see what happens from there.
On the First Amendment? claim?
Retaliation claim.
Okay.
Saying the city's retaliated against?
He's saying that he has been retaliated against because of all of the adverse decisions that this board has made against him.
And I'm, which development is this about?
This is all of the developments. This is a First Amendment retaliation claim. He's saying he's arguing that, alleging that since that first lawsuit that he filed in 2017 regarding Tollbrook on McClure.
Oh, wow.
He's saying that this board, the city of Troy, has retaliated against him because all of the allegedly adverse decisions that this board and city council has made have been because he filed that lawsuit.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, again, I don't like to talk about cases publicly because it's recorded and Mr. Stoffa is probably watching or will watch at some point. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but obviously I don't want to answer them.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for the update. Yeah. Mr. Savadan?
There's a lot I want to say, but I'm going to no comment.
Okay.
We'll give you 2 minutes if you want. Okay. Mr. Carlisle? You've got 1 minute. Nothing? Okay. I'm good. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
God bless.